business that ran over in our conference session, but we're ready to begin. Adequate notice of the September the 26th, 2013 meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting written notice and agenda of the meeting on the bulletin board in the Municipal Building, 1000 Route 10, Whippany, Township of Hanover, and by hand delivering, mailing, or faxing such notice and agenda to the following newspapers: the Hanover Eagle, Morris County's Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and by filing same with the Township Clerk. Have a roll call, please.
Committeeman Schleifer.
Here.
Committeeman Faramasca.
Here.
Committeeman Bruno.
Here.
Committeeman Capola.
Here.
And Mayor Francioli.
Here.
5 members in attendance, sir.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, would you all please rise, those that may, and join me in a pledge of allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, by way of explanation tonight, we've got a pretty strong agenda. I'm sure you're aware. And what I'd like to do is take those items in order to afford you an opportunity to comment at certain ordinances on the agenda. I'd like to take those items of resolution and other ordinances that are rather, should I say, non-controversial, and act on those first in order to give you an opportunity in the course of tonight to comment. All right, on that basis, Joe, why don't you let's do this first. You want to open to the public, and then I'm going to open the meeting as required to the public for any items not appearing on the agenda. If anyone would like to comment on anything that they don't see on this agenda, there will be ample opportunity for you to comment on ordinances on the agenda. But this is by law, this is a portion of the meeting in which I open the meeting if you'd like to comment or talk to the committee about matters that aren't on the agenda. Seeing none. Hearing none, motion to close.
So moved.
Second. Second. All go in favor?
Aye.
Communications, Mr. Administrator.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, members of the committee, we have one communication from Jacqueline Winters, a member of the Landmark Commission, advising us that due to family commitments, she will be stepping down as a regular member of the Landmark Commission. And as it is policy to accept letters of resignation by formal action of the Township Committee, I would ask for a motion to accept the letter of recommendation.
So moved.
On resignation.
Okay.
I'll make that motion, and I'd like to note that Jackie, I've been on Landmark for 5 years, and Jackie has been an excellent, excellent member. She's had a new child too now, and now her time is towards PTA and stuff with the kids. So I do make the motion with regret, but
Reluctantly.
reluctantly. She's an excellent member.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Capola.
Second.
Second by Mr. Faramasco. All in favor?
Aye.
So approved on accepting the letter of resignation. For the benefit of the public, all departments of the Township of Hanover on a monthly basis file reports of the projects, programs, and activities that are conducted by each department. And we'll note for the record that these departmental reports are open for public inspection and available in the administrator's office. They include the reports of the construction official, the township's property maintenance officer, report of the chief of police, the reports issued by the departments of public works, buildings and grounds, and park maintenance, the engineering department, the township's part-time human resources specialist, and also the chief municipal finance officer. Those reports are available for public inspection. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a public hearing which is required by state law on the transfer of a plenary retail consumption license, which is currently held by Bency Whippany LLC, located in Pine Plaza. And that liquor license, pending the approval tonight by the governing body, would transfer to a new sole partner, or sole member rather, by the name of James Kelly, and he would operate Scalapini of Whippany. We'll note for the record that the notice requesting the transfer appeared in full in the Daily Record on August the 5th and August the 12th in accordance with the Division of Alcoholic Beverage Control regulations. The police department has conducted a background investigation check on Mr. Kelly and finds everything in order to move ahead with the purchase. You also have the report of the chief of the Whippany Fire Department indicating that there are no issues related to Bensi at Pine Plaza. And finally, also, which is required by the Division of Alcoholic Beverage Control, is the submission of a clearance certificate indicating that all taxes have been paid by the proposed new owner to the New Jersey Division of the Treasury. So at this point, I would ask, is there anyone in chambers wishing to comment on this proposed transfer of the liquor license? Okay, seeing none, hearing none, may we have a motion to close on the public
Second.
hearing? We have a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Now on the resolution, this is a resolution approving a person-to-person transfer of plenary retail consumption license number 1412-33-005-008 from Bensi of Whippany Limited Liability Corporation, trading as Bensi, for premises located at 831-6-8 Route 10 East, to Scalapini of Whippany Limited Liability Corporation at the same location. Is there anyone wishing to offer this resolution?
So moved.
So moved by Mr.
Second.
Farmasca, seconded by Mr. Bruno. On roll call for approval, Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Farmasca.
Aye.
Mr. Bruno.
Aye.
Mr. Capola.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So approved. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as Mayor Francioli pointed out, we are going to bypass at this time ordinance number 18-13 in order to give everyone an opportunity to comment on that proposed ordinance. We'll now move to the next ordinance, which is docketed as ordinance number 31-13. And we have the proof of publication that the ordinance and the notice of introduction appeared in full in the September 19th issue of the Daily Record as required by law. So at this time, I would ask a member of the Township Committee to move on convening a public hearing.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Farmasca, seconded by Mr. Capola. On roll call, Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Farmasca. Mr. Bruno.
Aye.
Mr. Capola.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Is there anyone in chambers wishing to be heard concerning ordinance 31-13? Name and address for the record, sir.
Good evening. My name is Richard DeAngelis. I'm an attorney with the law firm of McCurdy and Riskin in Morristown, New Jersey. We represent the owner of 57 Whippany Road, and I just wanted to inquire. I was not aware that this ordinance was introduced earlier in the month to see how it may impact my clients and to learn a little bit more about what the ordinance is proposing, total takes, partial takings. So I'm really here to fact-finding, I guess you can say.
The ordinance by introduction is moving forward in the process, Counselor, as you're aware, that has the potential to lead to a condemnation proceeding under eminent domain. We fully understand at this juncture that both landowners are in negotiations with this time through our attorneys. We believe that's correct. I've been advised that the process of negotiations is ongoing right now. This is a step in the event that those negotiations aren't fruitful. We, the Township of Hanover, intends to move forward for the improvement of that intersection.
I understand. I guess this council adopted an ordinance on Valentine's Day earlier this year authorizing the acquisition of my client's property and Dr. Garcia's property. I don't speak for Dr. Garcia, but his property was the subject of the previous ordinance. So I guess
Talking
I'm
about
looking for clarification.
the takings for, on the bank side and on the Quick Check side.
So it's just, I haven't seen a copy, so it's just expanding it to allow for partial takings of those other proproperties?
On the opposite side
On
of
the
the
opposite,
roadway.
right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Has your client been approached and is in discussions at this time?
I'm not going to discuss where we are at this point. You know, you could be advised by your counsel. I think that would be more appropriate as to the status.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to be heard at this time? Seeing none on that, go.
May we close the public hearing then?
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
So moved by Mr. Faramaska, seconded by Mr. Schleifer. On roll call for adoption, Mr. Schleifer,
Aye.
Mr. Faramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Bruno.
Aye.
Mr. Capola.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So done.
All right.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue, resolutions as a consent agenda. Are there any questions from members of the governing body concerning the 6 resolutions?
Move to be approved.
Okay, no
Second.
questions. We have a motion by Committeeman Capola, seconded by Committeeman Faramaska on approval of the resolutions as a consent agenda. On roll call, Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Faramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Bruno.
Aye.
Mr. Capola.
Aye.
And Mayor Francioli.
Aye.
And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take the raffle applications also as a consent agenda. Are there any questions from members of the governing body concerning the applications that are listed as a consent agenda?
Move to be approved.
Motion to be approved.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Capola, seconded by Mr. Bruno. On roll call, Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Faramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Bruno.
Aye.
Mr. Capola.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So approved. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will proceed with the public hearing on ordinance number 18-13.
Yep.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will note for the record that the ordinance, in accordance with the municipal land use law, was filed with the Morris County Planning Board, transmitted to all of the contiguous municipalities. We have a letter from the Morris County Department of Planning and Development indicating that the letter was filed upon introduction. We have a copy of the proof of publication that the ordinance, the notice of introduction, and the proposed zoning map appeared in full in the September 5th issue of the Daily Record. The ordinance was also submitted to the Hanover Township Planning Board for review and recommendation, once again in accordance with law. And for the record, we have a letter which is dated July 23rd, 2013, from the Planning Board Chair, Robert Nardone. And the letter reads as follows. Dear Mr. Giorgio, at its July 23rd, 2013 meeting, the Planning Board reviewed and discussed Ordinance 18-2013, which have been referred by the Township Committee as required by the Municipal Land Use Law at NJSA 40:55D-26A, which reads in pertinent part, quote, prior to the adoption of a development regulation, revision, or amendment thereto, the Planning Board shall make and transmit to the governing body within 35 days after referral a report including identification of any provisions in the proposed development regulation, revision, or amendment which are inconsistent with the master plan, and recommendations concerning these inconsistencies and any other matters as the board deems appropriate." End quote. The letter continues. Ordinance 18-2013 would amend and supplement Chapter 166 of the Township's Code by changing the zone classification of Block 295 on the tax map from the current R25 residential zone classification to the BP Business Professional Zone, and would amend the regulations for the BP Zone District to permit convenience stores along in combination with a motor vehicle service station as a conditional use, and would make various other amendments consistent with the above changes. In reviewing ordinance number 18-2013 for consistency with the master plan, the planning board has determined that ordinance 18-2013 is substantially consistent with the master plan. The board has recently amended the land use element of the master plan and recommends adoption of the ordinance as introduced for the following reasons. 1, the amendment is proposed in response to an application by the Quick Check Corporation to amend the master plan and zoning so as to permit a convenience store / gas station at the intersection of Route 10 and South Jefferson Road. The board has reviewed the application extensively and has determined that such development in this location is appropriate, provided certain conditions as set forth in Ordinance 18-2013 are complied with. 2, the amendment would encourage removal of the existing non-conforming uses and structures at the intersection of Route 10 and South Jefferson Road. And 3, in order to promote the redevelopment of this portion of the BP zone with appropriate standards, and in order to accommodate necessary and appropriate improvements to the road system at the intersection of Route 10 and South Jefferson Road. The board believes that a larger lot area is needed than currently exists within the BP zone in this location. For this reason, the board recommends the relocation of the zone boundary as proposed by ordinance number 18-2013. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on ordinance 18-2013. And one final item, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, in accordance with the municipal land use law, all property owners within 200 feet of the property were served by regular mail and certified mail concerning tonight's public hearing. So at this time, members of the Township Committee,
Motion to
I
convene?
would ask for a motion to convene the public hearing.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Faramasca,
Second?
second by Mr. Schleifer. On roll call to convene the public hearing. Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Faramasca.
Aye.
Mr. Bruno.
I do have a question. Before we open the meeting, I know that we did receive a letter from the current landowner, and that, I believe, was going to be read into the record. Should that be done before the public speaks, or did we have another time
During the
frame
process of public comment, I think probably the best time.
prior to or during? Okay.
In conjunction with.
Conjunction.
Actually, there are two letters, Bob,
Once they
so
start to,
we have two to read in, and plus a letter from an
Yeah.
attorney.
once the public starts to speak, though, I don't think we're going to interrupt them, so will we read these in at the end?
Why do you begin with it?
I thought it might be a good
I prefer-
idea to start with this, because there is some
Public, if they hear it
pertinent
first.
data, some pertinent information in this letter in particular.
I have no problem.
I thought it would be worthwhile for the public to hear.
Yeah,
Before we
checked-
begin.
We've checked with legal counsel, and that is permissible.
You want to, the committee's decision to enter those into the record?
Sure, I have no problem.
Early on? Yeah,
Right.
Okay.
is that?
Do you want
There are actually three
amend the
letters
motion then, or how
that
do
we
we-
received.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, procedurally, we will begin this process. Soon we will open it to you. Let me just lay down a few quick little rules of courtesy here. You can speak at this podium for a period of 5 minutes. You can hold the podium for 5 minutes. We would ask you, collect your comments so that once you do comment, you can give other people an opportunity to have their 5 minutes. And we'd ask you not to return to the podium unless everyone is satisfied that they've had an opportunity to talk, so that everyone has a fair amount of time to give us their comment, pro or con, for this. On that note, I'll motion to open the proceedings on this portion of the motion. We're going to open with this letter.
Should I read the letter?
Yeah.
You want to read the letter?
Why don't
There are
we
three
finish-
letters.
Why don't we finish with the vote to proceed, and then...
Yes, we didn't complete
We
the
didn't
vote
complete
yet.
it.
We didn't complete the vote.
Yeah,
Why don't we
but,
complete the
I
vote?
wanted to read the letter before. Okay.
well, we have to open the public hearing
We have
first.
to
Aye.
open, yeah,
Aye.
motion to open, okay?
Aye.
Gentlemen?
Okay, Mr. Capola votes aye, and Mr. Francioli
Aye.
votes aye. Okay. So you want me to get to the three letters?
Yeah, we'll read, ladies and gentlemen, we will read the letters that we received into the record at this juncture, and then it might even help you in your comments later in the evening.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. There are three letters that we received. We're going to read them into the record in the order in which they were received. The first was received on September 19th, and it's addressed individually to the mayor and each member of the Township Committee. The first letter is from Scott Gorian, executor of the estate of Olga Fanek. He resides at 136 Garner Avenue in Bloomfield, New Jersey. And he writes, Dear Mayor Francioli and members of the Township Committee, I am writing to you in reference to the Route 10 zoning ordinance that you've scheduled to hear at your next Township Committee meeting on September 26th. I write in my capacity as the executor of the estate of Olga Fanek, which owns the former gas station property located at 1009 Route 10, Block 2902, Lot 6, just across the highway from the municipal building. By now, you've certainly heard and given thought to many of the arguments and counter-arguments concerning changing the zoning regulations for this stretch of highway to allow for construction of a quick-check convenience store and gas station. As you might imagine, as the owner of one of the properties that would be directly affected, I'm of the opinion that the benefits of making this change far outweigh any downsides for the Township of Hanover. The purpose of this letter, however, is to draw your attention to one particular factor: the environmental contamination of the property and the severe limitations that contamination imposes on the options of myself and the adjacent property owners. It's a factor that I don't believe has received as much attention as the traffic patterns and the complaints of the neighbors. Yet I feel it's the single most important consideration. So I want to make sure all of you are fully aware of this when you cast your final votes. First, some background. This property has been owned by my family for a number of years. My grandparents, Walter and Olga Fanek, ran and later leased it out as a filling station and repair garage from the 1940s until the late 1960s. After that, it was rented as office space to several contractors, but it's been vacant for about a decade and has fallen into serious disrepair. Unfortunately, at the time the property ceased operating as a service station, current environmental standards and regulations had not yet taken effect, and my grandparents didn't have the foresight to remove the old gas tanks from the ground or conduct any cleanup of the site, even assuming they could afford to do so. My grandfather died in 1991, and my grandmother passed away in January 2012. My brother and I inherited the property and have spent the past several years investigating every possible route to remediate the land so that we could offer it for sale. But we've discovered that it's an incredibly complicated and expensive process, so we have few options. Before our grandmother died, we helped her apply for and receive funding from the New Jersey Economic Development Authority to remove the old tanks. Removal wasn't completed until after her death in March 2012. That was the easy part. The rest of the remediation is estimated to cost between $650,000 and $700,000, according to estimates we've gotten from 2 different licensed site remediation professionals. While our grandmother's income while she was alive had qualified her to receive state remediation grants, now that she's passed away, her estate would need to be insolvent in order for us to receive any additional funding. So our application for further money from the Economic Development Authority has essentially been halted. And we can't continue with the cleanup on our own, as the expense far exceeds the total value of the estate. Furthermore, the state fund for removal of leaking underground storage tanks has now dried up, so we're unable to start from scratch with a new application. That means the property is basically stuck in limbo. Thankfully, Jefferson Route 10 Associates, LLC, has approached us and the neighboring property owners with an offer to purchase the land and conduct a full remediation at QuickCheck's expense. The developer leading the project on QuickCheck's behalf has in the past negotiated deals with banks, commercial office complexes, and other types of tenants of the sort that I understand might be less objectionable to the residents of the neighborhood than a combination convenience store and gas station. Unfortunately, in our case, he was unable to secure interest in our property from those other sorts of tenants as a direct result of the cost of remediating the land. The contamination issue makes this an extremely expensive plot of land to purchase, and I'm told the only tenants who would view it as making economic sense and companies are companies like QuickCheck and Wawa, which would generate enough revenue from retail traffic to offset the cleanup costs over the long run. My point is that the contamination is the primary reason the property is currently sitting vacant and abandoned, a blight on the landscape, and an unwelcome landmark as visitors enter the township from the west. As I explained, we feel we've exhausted all other avenues to completing this important work on our own. This strikes me as our only chance and one that would benefit the township to finally resolve this problem. I sincerely wish my grandparents had the resources to have cleaned up this site decades ago. Had they done so, my brother and I would not have had to deal with this cleanup, and we would have far more options to consider at the present time, including ones that might be more amenable to the residents of Malapartis and Ukraine roads. Unfortunately, given the situation in front of us now, I do not feel like we have any other choice. Hopefully, you appreciate our dilemma, one that affects the township as well, and will vote to allow this zoning change as recommended by the Planning Board. Sincerely, Scott Gurian, Executor of the estate of Olga Fanek. Then the second letter was received on September 23rd from Margaret Kizak, Post Office Box 274, Whippany, New Jersey, 07981. Dear Mayor Francielli and Township Committee members, I am the owner of property at 1031 Route 10, which is next to the proposed QuickCheck development. I recently was seriously ill and could not be at the meeting. While I also share my neighbor's concern about not being able to get out of Ukraine Road onto Jefferson Road, I have a personal concern about security, which I expressed at a previous meeting. The QuickCheck development is alongside my house and property. Even if they were to plant trees, which they said they would, QuickCheck might attract transient traffic from Route 10, and in some instances, people who are into drugs might become aware of Ukraine Road, which is lonely and dark, a perfect place. My neighbors and I are concerned about break-ins, which may occur as a result. The police blotter reflect reflected many drug-related stops along Route 10. I appeal to you and your committee to consider my concerns and vote against a zone change which would enable the Quick Check to build a gas station and convenience store at that location. Signed, sincerely, Margaret Kizak. And the third letter was received at 5 minutes to 5 this evening, September 26th, and it's sent from Joseph H. Burns, an attorney located at 147 Columbia Turnpike, Suite 306 in Florham Park. Dear Mr. Giorgio, as you know, I represent the estate of Virginia Hardy, which is the owner of property located on Route 10 and affected by your proposed land use ordinance. My first notice of your proposed ordinance was received by email from my former partner, Robert I. Babrow, Esquire, on September 25, 2013. I received neither certified nor regular mail notice of this matter. Needless to say, it is impossible for me to properly represent my client in reviewing this ordinance, discussing it with Mr. Branchow, Mr. Messera, or you on one day's notice. In light of all of the above, please be advised that I object to any action being taken on this proposed ordinance until I have had proper opportunity to review same. Not having an opportunity to yet review it or to discuss it with any of the appropriate personnel representing Hanover Township. I cannot say whether my client will object or simply acquiesce in the introduction of same. However, I believe I am entitled to sufficient time to ensure that my client's interests are properly represented. As you know, this property has been for sale for a protracted period of time, and while there have been some prospective buyers, the last prospective buyers indicated to me they are unprepared to go forward with any deal due to information received by them from the township. I find this to be of particular concern and believe that my client is entitled to make a proper assessment of the effects of this ordinance and whether it will help or further hinder the efforts to sell the property. Again, and in light of all the above, I respectfully request that the matter be tabled in order to provide sufficient time to properly evaluate the ordinance and its effect upon the Hardy property. Please advise me of the township's decision in this regard. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Very truly yours, Joseph H. Burns, Esquire. We'll note for the record that based on the property tax information that was provided to the administration in sending certified and regular mail, the last known address from Mr. Burns was his partnership with Mr. Balbrow in Morristown, New Jersey. So that notification was made in accordance with the tax list which was provided by the Finance Department.
The proper time was granted him and the proper noticing.
Well, the notices were sent out on or about August 28th.
All right, we had an extension of time through the summer months, so he has had ample opportunity to review the applications.
This was also sent to Mr. Samrow for his review, and he'll be here shortly.
For the record.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, those letters having been read into the record, ladies and gentlemen, begin the proceedings. If you would like to address the committee on the matter of this ordinance, you can do so from the podium, giving us your name and address for the record. And again, please give us the courtesy of just 5 minutes, and then you will be relieving the podium to whoever else would like to be recognized. So on that note, the floor is, motion for the floor is open right now. The floor is open.
Irene Feldman, 10 Malapartis Road, Whippany section of Hanover Township. At the present time, there are 2 convenience stores and at least 7 gas stations in Hanover Township. And I understand that besides the Quick Check being considered for Route 10 and South Jefferson Road, there's another one proposed for Hanover Avenue and Cedar Knolls. Given the relatively small size of this town in terms of both population and square miles, the question that naturally arises is this: does Hanover Township really have a crying need for 4 convenience stores and another gas station? Especially when one takes into consideration that we currently have at least 4 gas stations in town that have closed down and never reopened. In years gone by, and I'm not talking about ancient history, members of the town's boards and committees seem to frown upon these types of businesses. the all-night gasoline station convenience stores, and for reasons that were both obvious and valid. What has brought about this change? Quick Check's offer of $600,000, and their offer to put a brick facade on the proposed building that would somewhat match that on the town hall? Let's take a closer look at the intersection of Route 10 and South Jefferson Road, where there's now a push underway to construct a convenience store and gasoline station. For starters, let's state the obvious. That's one bad intersection. Then, for the record, let it be noted that when the ramp from 287 was constructed, the state not only closed down egress from Malapartis Road to Route 10, it compensated the then owners of properties along the stretch of road from the exit ramp to Jefferson Road for loss of their right to exit from their properties onto Route 10. And why did the state, way back in 1968, take this action? They did it because they determined that with the amount of traffic that was then using Route 10, coupled with that coming onto the roadway off of 287, that it would be too dangerous to allow cars to either enter into or exit from Malapartis Road and the abutting properties along the particular stretch of road, unsafe in 1968. So if way back then, with the unquestionably lower volume of traffic traveling both along Route 10 and exiting from 287, it was determined that it was unsafe, why in the world would anyone think that this roadway has somehow or other become safer now? And especially so with something like a gasoline station convenience store that will give rise to a lot more turning into and pulling out of maneuvers than would be the case if all that you had to be concerned about was the residents along that particular stretch of road. Isn't it just common sense about where a gasoline station convenience store should or should not be built? Let me further point out that the typical deal coming from Quick Check, you know, the old, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you thing, is nothing new. They've pitched it to a lot of towns in the area, with Montville, Wall, and Howell being among them. And at these towns, just like here, Quick Check waived hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not $1 million, before the eyes of the town boards and committees at these towns in an effort to get them to allow the construction of a gasoline station convenience store at busy intersections in those towns. Intersections, by the way, that were in nowhere as busy or dangerous as the one that we have here at Route 10 and South Jefferson Road. Do you know what those towns did? They told Quick Check, in effect, thanks, but no thanks. They told Quick Check that they viewed the safety and well-being of their residents, as well as the character of their town and the quality of life that it offered, to be more important than were the dollars being waved ever so temptingly before their eyes. Aside from the very real difficulties, if not hazards, that this type of business will bring to this particular intersection, let us also not lose sight of the rather unfortunate history that accompanies these open 24-hour businesses. Being so close to 287, a Quick Check located there will attract all sorts of transients, and as history unfortunately tells us, they're not always fine, upstanding citizens. Stores of this type are notorious for being a place where drug deals go down, where rather casual relationships are arranged, where all sorts of other criminal activities occur, with much of it involving violence of arms, either of violence or arms, or if not both. Without having to spend a lot of time and effort in doing a Google search, I've been able to come up with reports of 18 robberies, with 11 of them involving the use of firearms at New Jersey Quick Check stores between 2011 to the present. Other crimes found for this period include 10 for drug possession, 8 assaults, 4 thefts, and 5 arrests for disorderly conduct. In at least one of the cases, a weapon was actually fired in the general direction of a clerk, when apparently the robber didn't think the clerk was moving to open the register fast enough. There have been reports of store personnel and customers being verbally harassed and threatened. There have been cases of customers being physically assaulted. There's even one case where robbers, in their haste to leave the scene, struck a store employee with their automobile. Let me now turn to the property at the corner of Route 10 and South Jefferson Road, where they want to put this particular Quick Check. It's been termed by many as being an eyesore. I suspect a good number of folks, including myself, would find that term to be entirely appropriate. I live in the immediate area, and my impression is that over the past year or so, perhaps in contemplation of the site being approved for a Quick Check, it seems that less and less effort is being made to properly maintain this site. Discussions with friends and neighbors, one question that keeps coming up is this: why hasn't Hanover Township enforced existing ordinances with respect to the maintenance and appearance of the properties there? Also, why hasn't the property owner cleaned up the contamination caused by the old gas station? What I don't understand is why it appears the planning board and the members of the township committee are willing to sell out the residents of our community for a pledge of some $600,000 for what are rather loosely referred to as road improvements. Given the nature and the extent of the problems at this intersection, such amount is not likely to bring about any improvement to the physical makeup of the intersection, and putting a gas station there will only make an already bad situation considerably worse. As I see it, the road improvements will only benefit access to Quick Check. One doesn't have to be an expert on traffic problems to know that one of the major causes of congestion, delays, and accidents are lane changes. Nothing in the plan being proposed seems to adequately address how these sorts of maneuvers will be any less of a problem than they are now. It's extremely hard to imagine, in fact, how having a gasoline station convenience store there will do anything other than make worse an already highly dangerous intersection. I'm having an extremely difficult time in coming to grips with the concept that of all the businesses in this area and all the business ventures in the geographical region we find ourselves in, that the only type of business for this corner is a gasoline station convenience store. Surely we can do better than that. In conclusion, let me take pains to point out that something I always thought was obvious to all. We, the residents of Hanover Township, elected all of you who are on the Township Committee to the positions you now hold. Upon taking office, you took an oath that called upon you to serve and protect the best interests of the citizens of this town. There's absolutely nothing in that oath that calls for you to have to go out of your way, as it seems to be the case here, to accommodate the wishes of developers who might want to build in this town. If you are simply unable to envision how allowing a gasoline station convenience store on this corner might earn for Hanover Township the rather derogatory name of Gasoline Alley, or worse, then it's obvious that the voters just may lose faith in those who they have elected to office. Please remember the oath you all took. Clearly, the vote for a zone change, which allows a gasoline station convenience store at the intersection of Route 10 and South Jefferson Road, should be a resounding no.
Thank you, Ma'am.
My name is Nancy Gow. I live at 303 Brook
Excuse me,
Hollow
can you
Drive.
just speak up your name again,
Oh,
please?
sorry. My name is Nancy Gow. I live at 303 Brook Hollow Drive in Whippany at the Grand. I concur 100% with you. I also think that, the $600,000 that Quick Check is going to give is going to have to be used for that contamination that's already been mentioned in this letter. So who is going to pay for the reconfiguration of those lanes? I mean, even if the state pays for it, we all pay for it. Our taxes just went up $800 last year in our development. And we're a little sick of that. You think of Whippany, you think of low taxes. So far, I haven't seen that at all. I also realize that even though that building looks terrible, there are tenants that live there, and they look like low-income tenants. Are these people going to be displaced? Do we care about nothing but a Quick Check? I actually clocked how far the last Quick Check is. It's just slightly over a mile and a half. And that's ridiculous. Well, we're going to have one on every corner. It's just so ridiculous. And do we know if it's going to be open 24 hours a day? Are there going to be blaring lights on there for the neighbors? I used to live in Hapakon, and when I moved there, 2 weeks after we moved there, all of a sudden there was a baseball field behind us with blaring lights, and we lived there for 9 years with 2 games. I'm just saying, lights in the neighborhood can be very disruptive to people's sleep, besides all the traffic. If it's going to be open 24 hours a day, there's going to be traffic going all. People are not going to get any rest, any respite, and for what? For people who are going to be part-time employees. It's not like it's going to be bringing a lot of jobs into the business of this town. I think that what they should do is they should try to work with the person who owns this Kathy's Corner, and try to get the place refurbished. Maybe they can get volunteers that would help paint the building or something to make it look a little bit more attractive. I certainly would help, You know, I just think it's ridiculous to just, we never did see, I went down to the town hall the other day, and I spoke with the engineer's secretary, and the plans for that configuration were not available. And the engineer was supposed to call me back. He never did call me back. So we don't even know what the actual plans are to actually be able to physically see what they had planned for this area. Plus, we all know that last year, Whippany Road, when that was closed for that bridge, that traffic was horrendous when everything went to Jefferson Road. You can imagine what it's going to be like when they try to configure it. It's going to be a total mess. So this is just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, Carol. How are you?
You knew I'd be here. Carol from Chanco, Malapartis Road in Whippany. I literally worked on this for hours, and I'm just going to read it because I can't remember it all. And I think my statement is going to be more in tune to the people that live on Malapartis Road. I might deviate a little bit in here, but I think that'll be the gist of it for you. We are very concerned regarding the quick check proposed for the corner of Route 10 and Jefferson Road. 27 families are sandwiched between Route 10 and 287 with only one way in and out through Ukraine Road. If the quick check is built, the residents of Malapartis Road will be just about locked out from turning left on Jefferson Road with rush hour traffic coming from several different directions. The impact of cars this use will attract will add to the congestion we now endure. It is an issue of safety. This use is far too intense for this corner. The developer has promised many things to persuade you to make a favorable decision. On paper, these improvements appear to be a solution to controlling traffic. In reality, traffic will increase, creating unsafe conditions and absolute bedlam at this corner. One promise is to create a striped area and install a flashing sign in front of the jug handle to keep this area free of cars so that Malapartis residents can turn left. This is an unrealistic promise. There are drivers that daily overlook the striped area painted in front of the driveway to the police station. If all that's needed for residents of Malapartis Road is Malapartis to safely turn left onto Jefferson Road is a striped area, then by all means, paint it now. In reality, if northbound traffic cannot legally access the striped area, then neither can the residents of Malapartis. A quick check will generate more noise and lights. This intrusion of our already limited, peaceful enjoyment of our properties and our quality of life would be too great a burden on the nearby residents. The perpetual noise from 287, and I hear it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the surrounding roadways will be increased by diesel trucks coming into the site at all hours to fill gasoline tanks, receive deliveries, and have trash picked up all throughout the day and night. There will be gasoline fumes adding to the pollution of the air. Property values will decline if the quick check is built so near to residential homes. We are fearful that a quick check so close to Route 287 would lead to more people, including potential criminals, loitering in the area, increasing crime rates and vandalism. We always felt safe and secure on our street, living across from the police station, and I have lived there for 46 years. But we have had several robberies over the last few years, dispelling that illusion. We constantly have cars speeding down our street looking for another route and speeding out twice as fast when they realize it is a dead end, endangering the lives of our children and ourselves. If a quick check is built, we will be inundated with more cars, vans, and trucks seeking an alternate route. I have seen huge tractor trailers drive in and then back out the entire length of the road. Even modern gasoline stations are not exempt from gasoline and oil spills that over time could potentially contaminate the Buried Valley aquifer system, which is highly vulnerable to contamination. Almost the entire surface area of the groundwater basin can be a recharge area to some part of the aquifer system. When it rains, pollutants, including de-icing salts and other street runoff, is carried into the aquifers, degrading water quality. If a quick check were built, it would no doubt also attract pedestrians to the intersection, a tragedy waiting to happen. Highway intersections can never be made safe enough for pedestrians unless a pedestrian overpass is built. Montville Township denied Quick Check a zone change despite promises of $1 million road improvement. Howell and Wall Townships have denied Quick Check site plan applications because of safety issues. Please do not weigh your decision entirely on the promises of the developer. Make your decision based on safety and the negative impact this use will have on the Hanover Township community. This is not a slightly wider range of uses than currently permitted as written in the ordinance. All of you on the Township Committee are the conscience of this community. We are that community. We count on you, and we are telling you we are not in favor of Ordinance 18-2013. We are asking you to please vote no. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ann Rospond, and I am not a resident of Whippany, but I work across the street exactly from your place here at the Learning Experience, which is a daycare center. And I come from the Hippagon area down Route 10 because I consider it safer than and a little bit faster than Route 80. Prior to working at the Learning Experience, I worked down the street at Rainbow Academy, which is also a daycare center. And my main concern is the traffic and the safety of the people in the vehicles, including children, but not excluding anyone else. When I worked at Rainbow, it would take me sometimes 10 minutes to pull out onto Jefferson Road to get to Route 10 to get home. Now that I work on the opposite side of Route 10, I have to merge to the turning lane so I can turn and jug handle and cross Route 10. That sometimes takes more than 5 lights for me to get through. And I think I'm going to be to work on time, and I'm not. It depends on the lights and how fast people go through the orange lights and the red lights to get across. The merger from 287 to Route 10 is a disaster because you have cars wanting to get in the middle lane, which is really the right lane, and then you have cars wanting to make the right turn. And there's fender benders, there's just touching. It's absolutely horrendous. And I think anything you can do to prevent more traffic congestion, more safety for the vehicles, for the the drivers and the children would be greatly appreciated. If I have to get signatures or do anything from here, I will certainly try my best to do it, because after talking to people, unfortunately I don't read a newspaper, and I don't live in the area to see that people have written letters, and this has been a big problem. But now that I have a friend that lives here, and she's been telling me about the problems, and that you had proposed to put a quick check and a gas station there at an already congested area, is a deep concern of mine, and I've been talking to my fellow employees, and it certainly is a concern of theirs. I thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Judy, how you been?
How you doing? Judy Irati, 27 Malaportis Road. I see what might appear to be some folks from Quick Check here. I was just wondering if we could see the actual plans for that, the proposed plans for that, like we did at the last meeting. They had a sketch so that the people actually could see instead of, a visualization of the traffic. I know that the planning board has seen the plans a couple of times.
Yeah, this isn't a site plan review.
Correct, but at the last
But it does
meeting,
impact, right, I
right,
understand. I fully understand. And those plans have been available to you and your neighbors for, as you know, for quite some time.
Well, the lady said that she went to the engineer and he didn't have them.
Jerry, do you have any reference on it at all?
I'm not sure if they were left with Kim as, because they were concept plans. They were,
Right.
nothing submitted to me. They would have been in the planning board, and I'm not sure if Kim retained those concept plans.
Unfortunately,
Okay, so you
there are
don't have a
concept
schematic
plans,
of-
and what the engineer is telling us is he doesn't have those available for
Yeah,
you.
so that is not part of the, you didn't bring anything with you tonight?
Eric, if I may, John Scala on behalf of Quick Check Corporation, probably a little bit out of order. We did not bring plans. This isn't a site plan. What we do have are just photographs of the existing site from various vantage points.
You have them this evening?
We have the photographs this evening. We don't have the actual site plans, conceptual site plans.
Is there something that the neighbors can see or review that,
We're kind of worried, we're kind of interested in the traffic flow in and out of that site. So do you have something in the way of that?
Well, what I have are photographs, and I'm happy to put the photographs up. I did not.
well, the
bring these.
photographs of the existing?
Just of the existing site. That's
I don't
all.
think that's what,
Existing conditions. We
yeah,
did
I
not
think
bring
what, I
plans.
think what the folks.
So we don't have any aerials or anything, aerial photographs? It's just, I mean, we could look out the window and see the site, but, okay.
No, we didn't bring these.
Oh, okay, thank you. So then perhaps I might try to explain some of the flow in and out of that service, proposed service station, and if I'm wrong, just, let me know. The site
Mayor,
plan.
we do have, excuse me a second, Mr. Roddy, but our
We
planner
have
does have something
plans,
that,
we
small
have
one.
plans, the same plans that were submitted
Okay.
to yourself, and they were some time ago, but it's no different than,
Okay. Right.
I mean, if there's something that we can
you wanted to
circulate.
display them on the table for people to take a
It
look
would be
at.
helpful. Why don't you put up whatever exhibits you have? This way, the people who come out tonight can take advantage of seeing whatever the heck it is that they like to see. And maybe you could take 5 minutes to allow them to review these things.
Okay, so before the people review it, what I'm concerned
I'll
about,
put this out, but I think it needs to be understood that the design
It's just
is
a
not
proposal.
finalized, and this may not be 100%.
Well, I'm trying to make that clear.
Right.
This is not a planning board approval process.
No,
Right.
this is not a site plan, this is a concept.
But at the same time, what the public
Does
is
give an indication.
fully concerned with is the impact, what this looks like, what the impact of this is.
And, for example, driveways may not end up where they're shown on this plan.
Or do you want to put that plan out, or do you want
Put that
to?
out.
correct, and before you look at the site plan, I'm not talking about driveways or distances, but the main proposal to improve the access is to provide a right-hand turning lane going eastbound on that side of the road. So you would have 4 lanes on Route 10. The rightmost lane would be a turning lane, but you don't have a shoulder. This turning lane would go in and out of the quick check. The one next to it will be a straight through that would go to the jug handle here, so it's not a throughway going east. So you have a right-hand lane that's turning, you have one that's going
You know-
straight but
you know
going
what
around the jug handle, and 2 lanes that go straight. So there's going to, I'm explaining the 4 lanes.
What I'd like to do, I'm going
Okay.
to, Judy, stay with your comments. But what I'd like to do for the purposes of the public is, let's get as many of our people to comment as they'd like. And
Okay.
then I'll call for a brief intermission so that you can have an opportunity, and everyone in the room can have an opportunity to come around and look
Right.
at the plans, and then you may have some further comment. But if we try and show just this exhibit to everybody in this room right now, it's going to be chaotic. So why don't you continue on? Go ahead.
Well, no, so along those lines, could we maybe have one person, like the Director of Planning, explain the roadways? Because I don't want people saying, are we going east or west? It's confusing to look at the same, east, west, south,
We
south.
have several plans, and some of which you were privy to, and I'm happy to say that you saw from the DOT some time ago. And one of the greatest things that we could possibly do at that intersection is get people to make the right-hand turn to go eastbound before they get to the light. I mean, some of the problem is this ridiculous business of not allowing the right-hand turn. I understand the safety aspect of it, but it's not helping us. It's giving us considerable issue and backup, because anybody waiting to make the right-hand turn is going to back traffic up all the way now too. Secondly, the DOT plan for the improvement of that intersection showed at least 4 lanes going toward North Jefferson Road. that would increase the amount of stacking we can do in the lanes, so the volume of traffic would be improved there too. They had a very good plan, and in conjunction with that plan, there was improvements, I think, on the Ukraine side of the road. There were improvements on the township side of the municipal building. There was taking extra lanes coming southbound on Jefferson Road.
Right.
Signalization had to be changed, poles had to be moved. The complete intersection, which we know for years as a failed intersection.
Right.
It's got the worst rating of any intersection, in the town. There's no question about it. It's got to be fixed. But in any event, I can't comment for this applicant, this developer.
Right.
But I can say that, to my knowledge, they've been told by the planning board to take their concept down to the DOT and to discuss this with the engineers for the DOT vis-a-vis the plans that we saw from the DOT. I've been told informally that happened, and that whatever concept they have, whatever plans they have for improvements of the intersection mirrors what the DOT had planned for the intersection. That's where I'm at. But again, no formal application has come in before the DOT, let's understand that, and no formal application at this juncture has come in before the township where the site plan is concerned. So a lot of things would have to happen as they go forward.
Well, I actually agree with you. And that
Wait a minute.
I agree. When the state came in with their site improvements for the intersection, it wasn't the perfect plan, but it was much better. And this kind of mirrors some of those. It's not the full-blown plan that the state had, so that's one drawback. But the second major drawback is, when the state gave us their plan, there was no entrances and no exits from that right-hand turning lane going around the corner to South Jefferson, and absolutely none. We're talking about how nice traffic would go around that corner smoothly from 287 down to Jefferson Road. But now we're talking about cars coming in and out of the Quick Check, coming in and out of South Jefferson Road. When the state gave us that plan, there was no entrances and no exits from there. There was no entrances and no exits allowed from the church property, and therefore it became a pretty good plan. Now the picture has changed. So with that, I'll let the residents see the actual plans, proposed plans. But in the vein of circulation.
Right. The concepts that the planning board has been looking at for this, and by the way, whether it's this type of retailer or another, I think the planning board, as you know, is pretty unified in wanting to take all of Route 10 from 287 down to the Algonquin Parkway on both sides of the road and rezone for total improvement. In certain areas, they're looking at redevelopment zones of upgrading and improvement all along Route 10. That process has been going on for about a year.
About a year and a half.
And various members of our planning board have been given charge of certain sections of that to look and make recommendations. They've done that. So my point to one of the questions is, they have this application has exits and entrances onto Jefferson Road, yes, and onto Route 10, yes. But I don't know that any other retailer, right, I'm going to take a shot, a Walgreens, whatever, isn't going to want the same egress, onto a state highway. Now, question the planning board, where their entrance from state highway is concerned, was, hey, you go down to DOT because you're close to an off-ramp on 287 and we know the issues there, and you tell us what they say. Well, they did that. And again, I can't speak for them, and I haven't seen formal correspondence, and that would have to happen during a planning board application, as you know. But my understanding is they're outside the limit that the DOT had for their entrance from Route 10, on that basis. That's what I've been told. So that's, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, well, that's one issue, but the main issue here is that in I think it was either 1968 or 1971, the property owner that we were talking about with the poor property owner who couldn't clean up their site, in 1968 was given $20,000 for the right
the state acquired their access right in and out of Route 10. All those property owners were given money, our tax money,
Yep.
for the access rights in and out. So it's not that it's outside a certain distance. They were given money. It was a legal agreement that they gave up their rights. So now I just don't see, and that's a DOT issue, which we'll be pursuing. I don't
Understood.
see now how they're going to suddenly change their mind when all these years, maybe those people over there could have had a business property and had access in and out of Route 10. But they can't, but Quick Check can. And the second thing is, if a convenience store was put over there without a gas station, well, it's not the best, but it's acceptable. It's just such an I can't think of any more intensive use for that site than a Quick Check and a gasoline station. And all we have to do is look down on Whippany Road to see how popular they are. And there's tens of thousands, they estimated 40,000 cars go by there every single day. When those cars go by there and they're going west, and they need gas before they get onto 287, they're going to take that jug handle, which is inadequate. When they come out of the Quick Check, they have to go east and take the jug handle to go back west, which is inadequate. The jug handles are inadequate. The plan that the DOT had was good, but they should have had a right-hand turn going east around the jug handle, but they didn't. So it was good, but this is such an intensive use for that site. Given that, and given the them not knowing about the entrances and exits from the site when they gave you the plan, it just doesn't seem feasible that we'd allow that. And another thing is, when people come into town, they should get a good impression of what the town is like. And when they come off of 287, which is our main artery, and they see the nice town hall, even the Ukrainian church is pretty. Now that's kind of not such a nice site there, but if it was an office building, if it was just a convenience
Make
store.
a nice thematic restaurant, though, I think, if it was redone right.
I think it would make a good liquor store. a wine shop. It really would. I mean, make your own. They have to make your own wines, but I think it would be excellent for that. But so we need something similar around there to have it beautified. Like I said, maybe just a retail store there, but not a retail plus a gas. It's just so intensive. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Judy. I think there are two factors, and again, the floor is still open, so I don't want to interrupt anybody, but certainly the factors that the township has to focus on, that you're focusing on, is not only the traffic aspect of this thing, but certainly whoever takes this site on, whether it's this brand, Quick Check brand, whether it's any other retailer, the responsibility to due diligence and clean up the property is going to be that potential property owner's responsibility. The township isn't going to accept liability for any cleanup on this site or any other privately owned site such as this. You understand from some of the letters and correspondence that we've heard, some grant money has already been expended to clean up this site. I can't tell you the extent of the pollution on this site at this point. That'll have to be reported to us at such time as the application comes in. There were gasoline tanks that date back to the gas station there. We don't know the level of travel from any pollutants in the soil, and God bless it, if it traveled under the highway, it's an extremely costly process called vacuuming the soil. Again, that liability isn't going to fall on we taxpayers, and that liability falls on whoever acquires that property and understands what they're acquiring when they get it. I'm sorry, I'm taking your time up. Go right ahead.
No, it's okay. Paula Dewar, I live at 51 Melipartis Road. I don't have a prepared statement. I'm working basically on emotion. I thank my neighbors for having the wonderful statements that they did have. They really, truly covered my feelings also. I've been a teacher in Hanover Township for 25 years. I've taught at Salem Drive. I've taught 5th grade. I've been in 5th grade so long, I think like a 5th grader. And when the Quick Check opened on Whippany Road, it was like the new coming of Christ. I mean, my kids were so excited. And I saw, as I went home every day, kids flocking down the street from the high school, trekking over from the middle school, 5th graders going, parents taking them. I'm concerned with a quick check going in and Veterans Park being so close. A lot of children are dropped off there to play their games. And it's already been stated that it's a highly dangerous intersection. It's going to be even more of a dangerous intersection with more traffic, more flow, and I really worry about the kids that are going over there. I've seen my former students running across Route 10 to go to CVS. I've chastised them when I've seen them, but I have seen them. And when you get young children, boys especially, because they will be boys and they want to be independent.
Be careful.
You have to be concerned with that. You have to think about that. Another concern I have for the youth is the bus stop. The high school bus stop is on the corner of Ukraine Road and South Jefferson. I pass them every morning. They have barely any place to stand. We have a lot more young children growing up on Melipartis Road, and that really is going to have to be addressed because we can't have that happen. I don't know why the high school bus won't come down Melipartis Road. It concerns me greatly that these children are standing there now with the traffic the way that it is, and we'll have a lot more kids in the future to stand there. So those are two things. One thing I have to say from my heart is I'm very saddened with the direction that Whippany is headed in. It's no longer the Whippany I knew and loved. And I was really excited to move back to Melipartis Road. My grandfather built the house I live in. I have an awful lot of family there. And it's not going to be what it was. 287 took away some of that, but we can deal with that. It's a constant hum. We can deal with it. It's the traffic coming out of Ukraine Road. If I don't time it right, I can never make a left turn as it is now. I'm not an overly aggressive driver. I will not pull out into traffic, and it's only going to get worse. And I've already resigned myself to the fact that I will not be able to get onto Route 10 certain times. I will have to go all the way around through Morris Plains to get to ShopRite or where, Stop and Shop. Because if I come down that at a certain time, nobody lets me over into the right lane to make my right turn onto Jefferson. So yes, traffic is a very big thing, but it's also, I recently said to someone who does not live here, never did live in Whippany, but lived in East Hanover all her life, what was happening, and she said, oh my, and Whippany used to be such a beautiful residential town. And that's how I feel from the heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Bob Nardone, 4 Schindler Court, Whippany, New Jersey, a member of the Planning Board. I thought I would just come tonight and maybe just add a little perspective to the process that we've gone through here and maybe provide some insight, some clarity. Early last year, we were asked, the Planning Board was asked to take a serious look at the master plan for Route 10 because the conditions along Route 10, quite unfortunately, it started to look like a recession. And with a lot of boarded up buildings, a lot of areas in need of redevelopment, a lot of shabby properties. The one on the intersection of Whippany Road, of Jefferson Road, Route 10 here certainly fits that. So we undertook a project. This has been going on for about a year. This site here with the rezoning that we're looking at tonight wasn't something that happened because the Quick Check people came along. This is something that was well underway. And we broke up into teams and basically looked at the conditions of Route 10 and started to develop some rezoning opportunities for Route 10 to try to improve it. And we've actually completed the work on 2 sites, 2 areas. One area is the area that we have a potential redevelopment going on with the Wegmans shopping plaza coming in. And the second one is this area here, to take a look at this area to see what we can do. And in general, what we've said along Route 10 is that we need to expand the uses along Route 10, many of which are retail, and we have to do things in a way that will help foster redevelopment through assemblages of properties and to get better developments in. And we have several ideas for expanded uses and things like that to try to improve development along Route 10. I think many of you, if you drive up and down along Route 10, you'll see that the conditions really need to be improved. We have some very nice properties that have been redeveloped, but there's also a lot of areas that, quite frankly, look pretty poor. Just on a personal note, I relocated away from the town several years ago and came back to Whippany and after living in the Midwest, and I was quite disappointed at the conditions along Route 10. Whippany doesn't have a main street. The image of Whippany, basically, for a lot of people is Route 10, and I think that needs to be improved. So why did we think that this site had some strong possibilities? I just want to let you know that there were several concept reviews, and that's all this is at this point, is a mere concept review. We have a lot of work to do if this ordinance was to go through as far as site plan review, including traffic flow, in and out, appearances, and a whole host of things that we do on a normal basis. So, number one, this site is an eyesore, it's a non-conforming use, and it's an environmental hazard, okay? It needs to be cleaned up. Only a business that can take advantage of the traffic flow that goes along Route 10 is going to be interested in making the sizable investment that's needed to develop a property like this. And our rationale is only a business that has a national presence would probably have the capital to make these changes. We heard about traffic improvements. We heard about environmental cleanup. A local business is not going to be able to tackle that. And without making a change that could enable a redevelopment like that, this property could stand like this for years and years and years. And I don't think anybody would agree that that's to the best interest of the community. It detracts from the community's appearance, and overall, it hurts property values. So we believed that this concept plan actually was the first start to putting together an ordinance that would enable this type of use, not approve it, enable this type of use. And so we've recommended this ordinance for the Township Committee to vote on because we felt that it would improve the conditions. We also believe with the sizable investment that while the traffic won't be perfect, it will be better than today. We felt that the traffic that's going to be along there is going to be basically traffic that goes in and out. It's not going to attract additional traffic. It's basically going to pick up the flow that's already there. So we felt that we wouldn't necessarily be adding traffic to Route 10 or Jefferson Road because of that. So we've got a lot of work to do. I just want to remind the Township Committee that even with the approval of this ordinance, my fellow members of the Planning Board have voiced a number of similar concerns and basically have said, hey, look, let's approve the ordinance, but we want to do a lot of homework before this site would be improved to address the types of concerns that we've heard tonight. But we think it's a good plan, it's a good start, it's a good zoning change, and I think it's one that will help the community overall. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. I think Chairman Nardone's points, just to paraphrase some of it, is critically important to know that all our members of our planning board, members of our community, are concerned with the overall, and we're not ignorant of the issues. We live with it every day on Ukraine, on Malapartis, the upsetment that was caused by dead-ending that street has been problematic to us for countless years. There's no question about it. Dividing Malapartis with 287, breaking up neighborhoods. All of this presented certain unique problems to it. And we're not trying to exacerbate the problem. We're trying to correct some of the problem, and you just heard the chairman said it so well. It may not be the best or ultimate or final solution with the traffic that's being designed here, but we can't ignore it. We're responding to, and I think, pardon me, forgive me if I'm covering some ground that I might have had comments on at some past meetings, but we're realizing traffic impacts that aren't Hanover's, that aren't us. We're realizing traffic impacts, or currently you're realizing traffic impacts because 287 is being repaved and redone, so everybody that wants to get out of the peak hour at 5 o'clock traffic is finding their way onto Jefferson Road. And everybody that's coming up out of the Florham Park, by the way, let me back up a half a second. How you doing, Joe? And we just received in Township, the administrator advised me that the regional study plan from the county on the traffic situation in Morris County, particularly we eastern area towns, Florham Park, Madison, East Hanover, Hanover, etc. We just got the study in. It's about the size of a phone book. And it recognizes the fact that we are all, and Hanover is being the beneficiary of the impact of a lot of traffic that's leaving out of developments, everything from the new Jet Stadium area and the developments in the Madisons and the Florham Parks. I've parked for sometimes at peak hour on the end of Jefferson Road at Cedar Knolls Road. You want to see where the traffic is coming from in our town? Watch the traffic coming up Cedar Knolls Road from Park Avenue. Watch the cut-throughs. Watch the traffic back up down Whippany Road almost to the high school, all right? And we're going to have some resolution on that too. My concern here is I'm finding that Hanover is becoming the manager of every other town's traffic, and we don't like it. We don't like it. We're working with a lot of our new neighbors. We're working with Bayer Corporation on a lot of good solutions that we'll be able to bring forward. But in any event, we're going to study this county plan as well. We're hoping that all the input we put into the county plan is represented there. Our engineers can be taking a look at it. In the end, implementation of this plan has got to take place before we get any relief in this town at all, or we're going to wake up every single day to this transient traffic that comes through our town. That's where we are. Bear Stearns is closed down. Chase is closed down. A lot of the facilities that we've had are closed down. Bayer is just starting to operate, maybe 500 employees. At one time, we had 4,000 employees in there from AT&T, Lucent, right? So it's not all us, folks, but we've got to come together as a region. We've got to deal with it. We've got to come up with these solutions. We're trying hard through the freeholders. A lot more pressure has to be put on the freeholders. They better find themselves a big bag of money too, but we need to start on the road of improvement. I'm done. Go ahead. I'm sorry, sir, I took your time. You only have 1 minute now. I took 4.
You want to put the exhibits up?
Okay. After your talk, I'm sorry. What we'd like to do after this gentleman speaks, I'm going to take a break. We're going to have these exhibits out. We invite you to come forward, take a look at this. You might have further questions after you see them, so we will continue at that time. But go right ahead.
Greg Dewar, 51 Malapartis Road. That's my wife that spoke so well before, and I always worry about following her. A few observations. Back in the 1970s, I moved to Whippany. I used to ride my bicycle to East Hanover, where I taught until 2005. I did it as pretty much a regular basis. It wasn't a big deal crossing Route 10. It wasn't a big deal driving down Route 10. Sometimes I would travel all the way down and cut across by where Novartis, Sandoz, and the various other names that pharmaceutical company went through. Things have changed a great deal. Now, when people are traveling, nobody follows the speed limit. It used to be 55 miles an hour. When I come back from boating on Lake Apatcon, I'm typically running, if the police are around, 75 to 80 miles an hour if I'm in the fast lane, and I'm not passing anybody, I'm just keeping up with it. A big surprise happened when I left the lake going south on 15 when the police had it dropped off in Jefferson because of the fatal accident that occurred right out in front of Quick Check. You guys can check that. That's in the records, and the police had electric signs up asking for information about the fatal accident that occurred on Route 15 South. As I come back from the lake, I have a couple of boats. So if I'm bringing one of my sailboats back, it never fails. People are constantly blocking me from lane to lane as I try and move from place to place. I've pulled boats and camping trailers since 1962, and I've never had an accident pulling a trailer without a car. So here I am worrying about how to do this, and here I am looking at a change and the addition of Quick Check at the corner where I'm going to try and come in and make a turn onto that street. People constantly pull past the white line that's set up to allow tractor trailers or someone pulling a trailer to come around, and that happened to me again this week. At times, I drive my wife to school because she doesn't want to go out onto South Jefferson and turn down. And then when I have to come back, because I've been retired, thank you, at the railroad tracks, it sometimes takes me 9 minutes to get from the railroad tracks up to Ukraine Road. If I am going out on my own, and as Paula said, she's concerned about making the right turn there, I can tell you that the people come around from 10 to make the hard right onto South Jefferson, and then, for all intents and purposes, it becomes a drag race. You can look up and you can think you've got enough time, but you don't, because the people are racing in one direction, they're racing the other. This goes back to what I started with 75 and 80 miles an hour on the interstate. Everybody and his brother is trying to get to work because they left too late. And as these speeds continue to increase, this becomes a greater problem. Now I've got a difficulty. I attempt to go out and go bicycling. Well, the other day I got a bit of a surprise by the Quick Check that's on Whippany Road. I had to call the police because of the gasoline spill that occurred there. And I should be recorded under the 911 as I went through and said that there is an extreme odor of gasoline here and that a spill has occurred, and please dispatch a patrolman to go down and see what's happened. So here's an example of what I'm looking at. I'm already seeing tables put out in front of that Quick Check. I thought the Township Committee said that wasn't supposed to be done, that in terms of restauranting, that wasn't the case, but there are certainly tables there. Are they cordoned off? I don't know.
That was a Board of Adjustment case, and I think they might have given it consideration during that case.
Yeah.
That was
Well, you know, here's what we're going to be looking at. I was a coach in this town. I was on the board of the Hanover Township soccer for a number of years, and I know which way the kids think. It's real simple. A young child looks at a tree and says, I can climb that tree. Somebody with my gray hair looks at the tree and goes, I can fall out of that tree. That stops me from running across Route 10. It doesn't stop the kids. In conclusion, I'm beating a dead horse here. I sound like a lot of the other people that are around, and you've heard so much about traffic, traffic, traffic. You've also heard about what we're able to do. Yeah, I'm concerned about the way Kathy's Corner looks, and I realized there was a gas station there before. But we have gas stations that are out of business. I think we really need to take a hard look at this, and I think we need to give Quick Check a pass. That's just what I feel for your consideration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call for a brief break, about 5 minutes. I want to give you an opportunity to come up forward, take a look at these exhibits, and then we'll continue, let's say, about 5 after 10. Is that Counselor?
Yeah, Mayor, if I may, we certainly have no objection to the review of those exhibits, though I do not believe they are the latest.
They are not the latest.
The latest versions. They're probably representative, but there were times during the concept review where there were modifications in terms of going in and out of Ukraine. So I think overall, from an overall picture, it's probably representative, but I just wanted to make that clear.
I think, yeah, it's important, and I'm glad you did. Let's punctuate something. This when you consider concept, this has not been in any way, shape, or form approved by the planning board. But if you want to see what their proposed road patterns are, I think those are relatively fixed. Let's put it that way. But again, this is a concept in the full sense of the word, and if this gets to planning, and should it come out of the planning, it may or may not look this way. 5 minutes. Motion for recess. Second. All in favor? Aye. Gentlemen?
Thank you.
Thank you. You want to hold this? Take it back. Okay.
Letters back in the folder.
You need
2 letters.
Oh, yeah, the 2 letters, John, what did you do?
They're up there.
Oh,
Sign resignation now under that.
they are. I mean,
Would you like to do it right now?
do it.
Good.
Hey, what's going on? I'm waiting for...
Thank you very much for your cooperation. Hi, Joe.
So even if we canned it up,
Wait, they took my Tic Tacs.
Don't run.
Hold it,
You
hold
left
it.
them inside.
Nobody leave the room. Okay,
left
there you
them
go.
inside, Mayor.
Son of a gun. Took my Tic Tacs.
No, you left them on your table.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your cooperation, and again, I hope everybody had an opportunity to see this. Once again, I want to make it very clear, this is a concept. Planning Board has not had formal hearings on any there is no application before the Planning Board, which process that has to yet to take place. So this again is just to give you kind of an idea of what the traffic patterns might be like on this particular corner. Whether it's this retailer or another retailer, we would still want road improvements with whomever is going to go in there. That is, the township has used this process over countless years to get improvements in our road systems, et cetera, and making it the responsibility for the off-track improvements of the developers that come in and want the property. Having said that, motion once again to open the floor.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, the floor is open. Anyone who would like to address the Township Committee can do so from the podium and giving us your name, Carol, and the record, for the record.
Carol Femchenko, Malapartis Road in Whippany. Mr. Mayor, you're absolutely right about the developers and the road improvements. I and many of my neighbors attended one of the very first concept plan meetings with the planning board, and so many of my neighbors came to that meeting that they held it graciously. Mr. Panadella chaired the meeting that night, and he was gracious enough to have the meeting in this room. And at that meeting, I even have it written down in my notes, that the planning board had asked the developer if he planned on making any road improvements, and they said, no, not really. And then I remember subsequent to that going to a planning board work session where they discussed it, and they agreed to send a letter to the developer telling them, no deal. So you're right. If we get road improvements, they get what they want. And I never remember raising my kids that way. You know, it was my way or the highway. I just don't, you know, as I indicated before, I think on paper it looks great, but I think...
I can't validate that statement. I will rephrase something that I just heard.
Okay.
If they make road improvements, they get what they want, unquote.
But that's the way it appears.
I'm going to say to you that any developer that comes in, whether it's Bayer or anyone, or Red Bulls, anyone else, that has and you were Madam Chair or Board of Adjustment for quite some time.
I was, right.
You know that we make it their responsibility to do whatever off-track improvements are required at their expense, not at ours. So, you know, having said that, the site plan's got to stand on its own.
Right. Well, the Board of Adjustment, as you are aware, we don't necessarily impose conditions about road improvements so much because it's mostly homeowners that come in for variances for decks and things like that. But I just, you know, they were told no deal unless they made the road improvements. And, you know, I don't know if that's the best way to do business in a circumstance like this. It's just my humble opinion. And I hope you'll forgive me for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Oh, Gary, you're going to give him the floor?
Gary's yielding for 2 minutes for me. My name is Gene Pinadella. I'm at 38 Sunset Drive, Whippany. I'm also a member of the Planning Board, and Carol was right. I did chair that meeting that night. We didn't say at the end of that meeting, if you don't put the roads in, all right, you're not going to get your deal. What we said was, anybody that's going to do anything in that area is basically going to have to do road improvements. We didn't make any kind of a deal at that point that said, if you put the road improvements in, you're going to get approved. That's not how we deal. That's not how we ever dealt. And that was not the intent of what we said to them. What we basically said is, if you want to do anything at all in that property, you're going to have to consider road improvements. Furthermore, let me just state that I've been a member of the planning board longer than I can remember. I've seen a lot of the change that goes on firsthand in this town. I will tell you now that I've been there with members coming and going on the planning board. And to a person, the planning board has always been concerned with smart growth in this town. We have never, ever tried to do deals. That doesn't mean that when we had developers coming into town, we didn't do things like cluster zoning and get a park out of it and other things like that. That's the nature of how things get done in this town without costing us, the taxpayers, additional dollars. The property across the street, maybe the first 10 years I've been in town, and I've been here over 40 years, was a bar. They had decent sandwiches and good cold beer. But it's been empty for the most part, for the most of 30 years or so. In that time, I have to say honestly, this is the first concept plan I've ever seen for that property, or any property in that area. I have never seen a formal concept plan come forward on any of the properties that are over there. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to get approval. It doesn't mean anything. All it means is this is the first time we've seen anybody interested in trying to improve that whole area. And no matter who's going to come in to improve that area, all right, they're going to have to deal with the roadway situation. Secondly, with everything else that's going on in town, there was a time when every resident in this township was very concerned with the fact that we were losing businesses, we were losing our ratables, and everybody was concerned with what was going to happen to their tax rates. The Township Committee took action to develop EDAC, the Economic Development Group. That's been a boon to this town, and it's also helped us on the Planning Board and on the Township Commission, I would hope, to identify what we consider to be smart growth for the right reasons, to make sure that the residents of this town are gaining from what we're doing and that we're not detracting from anything that's happening in town. But I will say, there was no deal to fix the roads and you're agreed to have your plan approved. That never happened. That was never our intent. Our intent was to say, if you even want to be considered, you better start considering road improvements. Gary, thanks for allowing me a few minutes ahead.
2 minutes.
Thank you.
You've never known me to be quiet. And the mayor's time, putting my time on yours.
Did he eat into your time, Gary? Good. Well, I'll give you the full 5.
Gary Kaiser, 16 Lynn Terrace, Hanover Township. I'm here tonight, and I heard, Judy, I'm surprised you wanted to open Tony's Tavern again. That was kind of a shock sitting back there. But besides that, there's good arguments going back and forth here. I remember with the quick check that was built now at the Whitney Road and Parsippany Road, there's a lot of the same arguments coming before the board now. I remember when the Whitney Diner was looking to put a parking lot across the jug handle from where the Whitney Diner is now. There was a lot of things with safety and everything going on with that. There's a lot of going back and forth. The intersection does need to be changed. It really does. That whole section of the township needs to be modernized, or whoever comes in, it needs to be done. And I agree with the one gentleman from the planning board. I don't think it's going to create traffic. The traffic is already here in Hanover Township using that. But no matter what goes in there, something needs to be done on that piece of property. Can't say that forever. That's all.
Thank you, Gary. From a marketing standpoint, and again, I'm not a guru in this area, but the type of service stores that these are, the Wawas, the 7-Elevens, the Quick Checks, et cetera, and this is the research that I've been doing. And it's not making a comment that it generates traffic. These are not destination stores that pull traffic in. In other words, you know, I'm not going to wake up in the morning and put my shopping list together and say, I got to get to the Quick Check and have this done. These stores are usually located in areas that, that service already high trafficked areas, highway areas, secondary roads of that nature, because they want that customer, mostly a transient customer. It's not, although many of us know that the Quick Check in Whippany, you know, has found itself a pretty solid market in our residents down there. That's not generally the case. But having said that, if anyone else would like the podium at this time?
Oh, no.
You go, Gary.
Judy Irati, 27 Malapartis Road. Yes, the site is an eyesore, and I'll give you a little background on the site over there. The bar, as they called it, was actually a very nice eating place. It was called Kathy's Corner, and for years...
Tony's.
Before that, that was before my time.
Okay.
So she held it was a really nice establishment, and there was, you know, she had really, really good food, kind of similar to Bogey's. So that was a really nice place. However, she moved out because the landlord would not improve the property. It was deteriorating to the point where she felt it could become a health hazard. She moved out. The property next to it, which was the gas station, for up until I think it was the 50s, was a little gas station, and then it went out of business. From that time until 2 years ago, 2 years, not 10, it was rented out. The person who owned that property years ago, and it's on Township records, was ordered to clean up that property. Mm-hmm. The DEP ordered her to do it. And there was adequate money to do that. It didn't happen. That went into an estate. The inheritors had adequate money to clean up that property. The person who owns now the old Kathy's Corner has adequate money to clean up that property over there. If these properties were cleaned up, perhaps we would attract different clientele. Pinadella says nobody has come forward. Well, maybe it's because the site wasn't cleaned up. It should have been cleaned up with the oil. The eyesore of this tavern this defunct tavern over here, it's an eyesore. Get the people to clean it up now. And I think I heard somebody say if just painting some stripes in the road like they did with the police station entrance here is going to improve the safety for the residents right now, or do it right now. Don't wait until a site plan comes in 2 years down the road. They build up now. That's all I.
No, it's valid.
Mm-hmm.
That's valid. We did stripe the. Matter of fact, I'm glad you brought that up, because as some may notice, where the police entrance is out here in front of Town Hall, and to the opposite side of the street where the turning circle is to come back in, we put in a large striped box. Clearly indicates,
Right.
you know, not to block and to get out. It seems to be working out very successfully so far. What can they do that right now? I mean, I guess yes. I guess the answer is Public Works can go out there. If we get some approval, Jerry, in some fashion, we can put a stripe box or a double line as an early stop before the light, which is what I wanted to get you to stop there, to give you the gaps you need. But ultimately, as conditions aren't going to get better. You and I know that. Let's be honest. Conditions are going to get worse. The cleanup of the colloid property, multi-million-dollar clean, and what's happening down there, which by the way goes back 7 years, right, is going to bring more traffic. And Bear Stearns is being cleaned up right now. Some of the buildings are being taken down. It's going to be a higher profiled data center. Is going to bring more traffic. So one way or the other, we've got to deal. What's the solution? We've got to deal with that intersection. It's got to get fixed. I've been sitting in this seat for a long time, and on this council, thank you very much, for a long time. And the answer has never come forward. Sure, the answer has come forward. Hanover, write a check at one point with the original document. Write a check for $7.2 million. We'll fix the intersection, you know. And Hanover put away some money. Yes, we do. We have some escrowed money. but it's certainly not going to scratch the surface of what has to happen there. So, the option is wait for the opportunity for the retail zone to develop, and with that development comes the responsibility of that new property owner to clean up and improve the area. That's our consideration. That can't change hands without a commitment to, the DEP won't allow it to change hands without the commitment to clean it up. It's got to happen. You know that too. So, but is Hanover going to do it? Are we going to put, 600, 700, 800, as you just heard from that letter? I just heard some of the numbers. I heard numbers as high as 900,000 to clean it up. We're not going to put that burden on the taxpayer. We're going to put that burden on whoever feels that property, is worth improving. That's where that's going to go.
But I think there was a sign up on South Jefferson to stop here and don't block the intersection.
Yeah.
And then shortly after a car hit it and it was never put back up.
You know what? It's a temporary fix, and I don't think there's a big issue in doing that.
Okay, good. But I also would appreciate if you told the current property owners they have to, even if a site plan goes through, it'll be years before it's built. I mean, do we want to have that site an ugly eyesore for years? It should be cleaned up now, whether that site is sold or not. Just clean up that site.
With the present property owner.
And those present property owners have adequate funds to do that, both of them. So, thank you very much.
Understood. Okay.
Good evening. Ann Kosanaki from 39 Malapartis Road in Whippany. Having lived on Malapartis for approximately 40 years, I must tell you that having macular degeneration, I'm unable to drive. I'm at the mercy of getting myself out of the house and going exercise. Where do I go to exercise? I have nowhere to go to walk to the park that you built, Central Park. There's no sidewalk. I tried to cross Ukraine Road during Sandy. You cannot cross. I tried to get to the Township, to the bank. There's no way that you could do anything. You are a prisoner in your own home. And the beauty of all that is you built a beautiful sidewalk on your side of the City Hall, while when you cross into the location of the bar, there's a hole there. The trucks are not made for this corner. The trucks are 18-wheelers. When they come around, I had to watch that I wasn't swiped by a truck by the electrical pole. Now, if the electrical pole was underground, I could step on that corner, but there's a hole there. So there's a puddle there. So I had to avoid putting my feet into the puddle. I went on the street while the cars are beeping at me. So perhaps this is an idiot's problem. I shouldn't be out there. But I do pay my taxes. And I would like to get out of the house. And I would like to go to Central Park. And I don't have a Korean market that I could go pick up a piece of vegetable or milk when I need it. Pathmark is closed. So can I walk on Route 10? No, because she's an idiot and she's walking on Route 10. She must be homeless. So there is no way that you can manipulate yourself where you fit in. No bus, no train, no car. And if you wave on the street, they think there's something wrong with you. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. But the comments are very valid, and I think unless we address this corner in some fashion, and some of this plan and the DOT plan addresses it, the radiuses have to be changed. You're absolutely right. You can't turn a tractor trailer. How many times has a tractor trailer taken out the center divider over here? I can tell you how many times we replaced it. The poles have to be moved back. The traffic signals are out of date. Traffic signals have to be taken out, replaced, old digitized traffic signals. The timing has to be changed. That traffic can't keep backing up down Route 10. Along with that, either designated crosswalks with lighted signals that are safe for people to cross have to be installed. Whether we install it, whether somebody else installs it, whether it's a cobblestone type of walk that designates a crosswalk that goes across that street, with or without something there, it should happen. How are you going to cross Route 10? You know, I mean, we're talking about this connectivity plan that Gene Pinadella is working on very, very closely with our planning board, et cetera. And we're looking for ways to connect both sides of Route 10 with our Patriots Path, trails, things of that nature. You go walking, bicycling, it's going to be lovely. Hope I see it soon. But we've got people working on that right now, investigating ways to cross Route 10, you know, other than having to go over that bridge by Parsippany Road or something else like that. But all I'm trying to say to you is, everything that we're hearing tonight, we are aggressively working on solutions for, and are going to try and make it better for all of us. I can genuinely tell you that from sitting in this seat. But, Madam, go ahead.
Hi, Nancy Gell, 303 Brook Hollow Drive, Whippany. The question I have is, do we really need to put anything there? Can't they just fix the traffic problem with fixing the roads? Do we have to put something up there? We can still make it look very attractive, put bushes up, little trees, and make it park-like. And if what that lady said before, if these people have the money to take care of the oil spills or whatever is over there, then they should be made accountable, because the rest of us shouldn't have to pick up the tab, and we shouldn't expect the company to come over and offer $600,000, which is not even going to touch the reconfiguration of the roadways. That's going to be either done through the town or the state. And so if that's going to have to be done anyway, just to make it safe for us, the people that already live here, then why can't we just do that and forget about putting anything else there? You know, what that man said before about the planning, like for Wegmans, there's no homes around there. That's a very area. That this area that we're talking right now is very residential, which is totally different than Whippany Road, and Parsippany Road, that area there. There's a bank, there's a bear, there's a funeral parlor. There's no homes right around there. It's not the same type of a neighborhood whatsoever. Plus, that gas station that's on that corner, the reason why Quick Check is doing so well is because that man went out of business who had that gas station there, because they took so long to fix that bridge. So that gas station. There's an abandoned gas station on the other 10. How many abandoned gas stations do we need? If you think Kathy's Corner looks unsightly, if this ever becomes abandoned too, we're going to have such an ugly eyesore there, it's not going to be funny. There's no guarantee that place is going to be, especially since they have all these plans to put so many of these. I spoke with somebody at Town Hall, and they said in Cedar Knolls they want to put one near a Lowe's that's going to be coming up also. So, I mean, it's like quick check. You know, I mean, so they'll be taking away business from one or the other, and if they feel that this is not a good area for them to get in and out, it could become something that it's not going to be usable. But I'm just saying, why do we even have to consider it at all? Why don't we just fix the road so that it's safer for everybody and usable?
Well, let's see. Your portion of that road fix and my portion would be about 3 tax points. So
we're still going to pay for it anyway. Even if Quick Check comes in there, we're going to pay for it. That's my point. We're still going to have to be paid for it. And right now, there's a lot of people here that I guess are just too bashful.
I don't see how you come to that conclusion when, if you were listening all night, whether it's this retailer or some other retailer, it's clearly going to be their responsibility to do this road improvement consistent with the DOT plan. What about that don't you understand?
Well, what I read was that they were willing to pay $600,000 towards
They'll
it.
pay whatever the tariff is on this. I'm not going to pay the township a dime toward this.
No, I'm just saying, and that would have to be the contamination area. That would not even be.
No, they're going to do the contamination area because they're not going to get the property unless they clean it up. And second, secondly, as part of the requirement for any retailer going on this
But
corner.
do you really think it's only going to, how much are you willing to pay? You're right there. How much are you willing to pay for this?
Madam,
For this corner?
you're becoming adversarial here, and you're getting your answers, and your 5 minutes is long.
Oh, okay, just one last thing. There's a lot of people here that I guess are too bashful to get up to the podium. How many people are for this and how many people are against it that are sitting here?
Everyone here is probably not for it.
Well, can we see hands for who's not for this?
Madam, you're doing
I'm sorry.
You're doing an immature, infantile process here. Thank you very much. Thank you for leaving the podium.
Just so it's clear to answer the commenter's question, the way the ordinance is written, the use is not permitted unless the improvements are made.
We're not getting that point across, please.
So if the town or the state or the county doesn't make those improvements, the applicant must, or the use can't go there. It's that simple. It's not a dollar thing.
Gary Kaiser, 16 Lynn Terrace again. I just want to say something to the mayor and the mayor of the Township Committee. I live in a section of town where I'm going to be getting a home goods store. I'm going to probably be getting a Quick Check, and I'm getting a ShopRite right down the street from me. All well and good. Between the planning board and the Township Committee, they are doing the road improvements to do better traffic on Hanover Avenue. And I think whoever comes into town, that the township always works with whoever it is for the bettering the traffic and the safety on the roads. And I know this was going on because I've gone to meetings on how they're going to be widening the roads around the ShopRite and the home improvement store and that whole area there. And you people are here talking about traffic. I'm going to be getting a lot more traffic. I get it now, but traffic's going to be traffic. I have to depend on the planning board and the gentleman up here what's best for the town. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is still open. If anyone else would like the opportunity to speak. Joseph, I'm looking right over the microphone at you. But Ed got to you. Ed got it.
Ed Moscarello, 27 Malapartis Road. We've been hearing about road improvements, $600,000. How much road improvements does this buy? I know there's a proposed lane going next to Quick Check on Route 10. Also, the widening of the lane on Jefferson Road. What exactly will the other improvements be, and how much will they be?
My understanding, I qualify this because estimates haven't been ascertained yet. Commitments have to be made, and then you know what the process is before they get it. But let's take a shot at it, okay? I've heard numbers from anywhere between that letter that said their estimate for balance of cleanup was between $600,000 and $700,000 on that letter. I think the township thinks it's probably going to be closer, privately done, closer to $900,000. If the township got involved with this, God bless it, because townships have this wonderful ability to buy things for twice what they're worth, I think we'd be well over $1.5 million to do the cleanup if it was the township side. That's the cleanup. That's the cleanup. We know what we looked at with the DOT when they brought this plan in for the road. They call it, I call it Ron Santa Anita plan because they were just adding more lanes. I said when the light changes, they're all going to come out. But what it does do is it allows a lot more volume of traffic to stage, and it gives you the gaps, and we're trying to give you the gaps too at Ukraine. That portion, when we first looked at the Plan A years ago, close to $7 million. This modified plan, this isn't the best plan. This is not the best plan. This modified plan on the township side of the desk, 2.1, 2.2 million, if we did it. That's why I said to this young lady who commented before, that's taxpayer dollars. 200,000, where am I? 200,000 a tax point now? What am I at? All right, that's money out of all our pockets. Yeah, if that's what our community wants to do, that's what we do. But you have to be aware of it. That's all. You have to be aware of the costs. So those are the costs that I feel that I feel comfortable knowing. I mean, they're not finalized. They didn't go out and get contracts. They didn't go out and get formal estimates yet, et cetera. And for the most part, my attitude, and I think those of the rest of my colleagues who sit here, is that whoever goes in there, whoever the retailer is, you know what? It's your problem. It's your problem. We're not going to make it the taxpayer's problem. You know, so that's where we are, Ed.
Is that part of my 5 minutes?
No, no, it's not. No, it's not.
Come on. Anyway, I've lived on Malapartis Road for 30...
I'll rewind and give you the rest of the 5.
I've lived on Malapartis Road for 37 years. I saw traffic increase. People on Route 10 never had access to Route 10 while I was there. My understanding with the prints that I saw, they're going to add a lane inside of the lane that comes off of 287. At rush hour, that lane is solid coming from 287 to Jefferson. Anybody coming down Route 10 would have to cut into that lane, which means they would be holding up traffic in the second lane. So that right there is bad news. Also, over the years, there have been so many accidents between 287 and Jefferson Road. One recently, we lost electric for 2 days. You have no control over drunks, and that's who travels Route 10s frequently. Also, on Jefferson Road, they're proposing a driveway on Ukraine. It's bad enough for us to get out onto Jefferson Road, and now they're going to have cars going in and out on Ukraine Road. It doesn't make sense.
It may not happen.
I mean, it's totally ridiculous.
Yeah, I understand, but
And
still, that's a site plan issue. It may not even happen.
The safety involved with this, there's accidents all the time there. If you put a quick check there with a driveway going in and out on Route 10, you might as well have an ambulance parked there, because that's what's going to happen. Also, what about the 27 houses on Malapartis Road? What exactly will our houses be worth? Will we be taken off the tax rolls?
You know, you give a valid point, okay, but let's talk about this a second, all right, since you raise it. This is going to be a retail zone. Route 10 is Route 10. Both sides, east and west, when the planning board is done with the work that they've done, and by the way, they're ready to make a modification to the master plans on this thing, it's going to be retail. Right now, it's a BP zone. We did that, I remember we did that like 15 years ago. Business professional zone. Business professional. We said, this is great. Medical arts buildings, office buildings, business professionals going to come in. Nothing has happened in all of that length of time that those properties will be available. So now they're going to go fully retail, and they're going to provide all the amenities for retail. And by the way, they're trying to take retail up to larger size lots. In other words, not so that we have little mom and pop stores. They're trying to do designs like we did on Hanover Avenue. Hanover Avenue went up to 10-acre lots now under the new zones for Hanover Avenue. Similar types of consideration will be given to Route 10. Point being, you're going to have retail along Route 10. You've had it. You've had Tony's. You've had the gas station years ago in there. Did it affect your property values? I'm not the tax appraiser of the township. I'm going to tell you that I don't see it. I don't hear the argument that, well, it'll affect your property values. That's what I'm saying, Ed.
I think it will.
You know?
I'm sure it will. Another point I'd like to make: everybody who's making decisions on this property and our street, no one lives there. No one on the planning board. No one on the Township Committee lived there. The homeowners, property owners don't live there. So there's not really much interest in what happens to Malapartis Road. It's going to be a nightmare for us. If that place is built, that's our only way in and out. If there were a catastrophe at that gas station, we're trapped. We can't go in or out. And they do happen. So I have a suggestion. How about if you go to EDAC and you market our street and turn it into commercial and buy us out? Because you're throwing us under the bus, you know that. There's no easy solution. I'm giving you one.
We can walk away from this proposal. We cannot do anything about the zone change. We don't have to. You're absolutely correct. And we could let the situation on this intersection and everything about the traffic, et cetera, exacerbate itself. And there'll come a point when you and I won't be able to sit in this room because the people in the rest of the community are going to be so up in arms. We're getting complaints now about traffic going through the town. We've got to come up with more solutions. I said it earlier, I don't speak for this entire body. They have their own mouths. They'll tell you what they think. This is not the fix-all. And
this is not a solution. This is probably, if you had to think of the worst thing to put there, it would be a Quick Check with a gas station. And the last time Quick Check came before this committee, and they were rejected, right there. He laughed. He knew it was a ridiculous thing. And now they're back, and it's not so ridiculous.
this proposal was rejected early on, you're saying?
Yeah.
You got to help me out here.
Well, this is the lawyer that was there.
Yeah.
We spoke to him afterwards. When you said you wouldn't allow it unless significant changes were made to the intersection, and you told him to go away. This is the gentleman we talked to.
Right.
And afterwards, you know, he kind of laughed it off. He knew it was ridiculous then. It's ridiculous now. So I'm asking you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Any other comment from the public at this time? Hearing none. See, this will be your third time at bat, Judy.
You know, I'm sorry to get up here a third time, but I just have one simple question. And considering what happened with one other property in town when it was developed, and the developer promised all kinds of things, and so far as Duck will never come through with those. Just want to ask that the state plan to improve that intersection, is this developer going to do all those improvements? And if not, how much of the remaining improvements will the taxpayers have to pick up? The DOT has a plan, I have a plan, you have the same plan.
They can answer here themselves, but I'm going to answer to my expectation.
Mm-hmm.
My expectation, and also as a member of the planning board, is that any retailer that takes this corner takes it with the understanding that he must comply with the DOT improvement that's required, that is requested on this corner. So that means they pay for all sides of the street.
So they will be doing the plan, improvement plan that the DOT had proposed to the township?
They will be, yes, they will be mirroring that plan from the DOT's plan.
So to make it clear, and they could say yes or no, that if there's if on the DOT's plan there was a turning lane on the north Jefferson Road onto Route 10 going west, they're going to put that in.
From the municipal side?
Yeah.
There's improvements in the alignment from the municipal side. I can't comment on that.
Okay, so to get it straight, there's, the DOT gave a plan to improve that intersection. Are you going to allow development at that site before the whole is developed? the DOT could perhaps say that their side with their turning lane is adequate for their site. It doesn't improve the whole intersection. So are they going to improve the whole intersection? Or are they only going to improve the site, the intersection, so it gets?
The requirement is going to be to go before the DOT with a formal application, which has not happened yet. They can't go before the DOT with a formal application until they have a site plan before the planning board. It's the law. It's the law. And when they do, it's my expectation, and again, I'm chairman, so hopefully I'm speaking for this body. It's my expectation that they'll comply with the design for the DOT. That's the best I can tell you at this point.
The plan that the DOT proposed to the town was about $3 million, the last plan. $2.5 million. Now, all I've heard, and you're going to have to answer this question, all I've heard is they're going to kick in $600 towards the improvement.
I haven't heard that.
Well,
I don't know where the 600 comes from.
So, but are you going to do the improvements that the DOT required at that intersection? It's a yes or no question. Answer. Yes. Well, I'm not the developer. And I'm only asking this because we fell into a problem last time with the developer. So to get it onto the record, we'll see exactly what improvements they have in
Let's get a comment here.
Okay, let's get a comment.
Well,
For the record, you are.
for the record, John Wyciskala, W-Y-C-I-S-K-A-L-A. I am the attorney for Quick Check Corporation. I guess I will add, while I am up here, because there are comments about commitments for expenditures, and if this zoning goes through and we are fortunate enough to proceed with the development, it will be our responsibility, in accordance with the conditional use standards, to undertake the improvements that are required, the roadway improvements, at our client's cost, as well as to deal with the site remediation. There's never been any suggestion that any of those costs would fall on the township's part, especially the environmental costs that has nothing to do with this, the community as a whole. The proposal, and there has been significant discussion with respect to the improvements that are proposed at this intersection, that have been discussed at length before this, before the committee and before the planning board. The right-of-way dedications that are necessary that would be coming from the Quick Check property or from that corner property would all be dedicated. All of that road work that is shown would be dedicated. The traffic signal upgrades and timing requirements would be provided. The road widenings along that frontage. We do not, however, as a private entity, have the authority to go and condemn property that would be on the other side of,
Understood.
On the Ukrainian church side of things. But everything that is everything that is shown with respect to the road widening and everything that's required by the conditional use standards that are set forth in the proposed ordinance that's before the committee tonight would in fact be the responsibility of the developer. And that's whether it's us or if it were another retailer to come in to do this, this type of project. Thank you.
I think what you heard is they're going to take responsibility consistent with the design, but where hypothetically, the church side, there might be another 15 foot of taking there. And that's going to happen, all right, with that property improvement. But they are not in a position to condemn and take the property.
They're only going to do the improvements on their side, the church side, and Stuart Jefferson, those are not.
I can't, go ahead. I can't hear you.
Just one at the podium. One second.
Sir?
Sure. Farid Sheikh, 35 Windermere Court, Whippany. Hello, everyone. I'm a little confused. I know we keep on talking about the traffic situation and that traffic is getting worse, and we're creating a data center at the Bear Stearns location, I heard, for example, or something's moving there. We were here a few weeks ago that we were talking about the new development we want to do right across Windermere, traffic situation there. So it sort of sounds like an uncontrolled experiment going on, correct? Because we're talking about we have a traffic problem already. And we have these things going on. We talk about this quick check, most likely will create more traffic challenges. So I'm just wanted us to think about, step back and think about it. You know, 3-4 weeks ago, we were talking about the traffic will be on Jefferson Road across Windermere because of the new development. Then we talk about the traffic that is going to cost for cause of this quick check. Talk about the traffic about the data center. So we are doing these things look like randomly. I mean, seems to me, quite honestly, and surprises me that we are sort of doing them at the same time. Quite honestly, correct? So I remember, as you guys can see me on record, there were lots of people talking about what are we going to do in the traffic on Jefferson Road. You know, it's going to get worse. You know we made a unanimous, the administration team here made a unanimous decision to go ahead with that plan. But this step continues to worsen that situation, correct? So unless you folks tell me it's, you know, in fact, some of the folks here on said last time that the traffic situation is going to get worse, as best as I recall, i.e. it's not going to get better at least, correct? So I want to get a sense from you folks, is it getting worse with these steps or getting better? Can I get some thoughts on that?
Sure, I'd be happy to share, provide some background. I think you're asking a very good question. I can assure you that this board and the planning board does not make decisions in isolation, meaning, yeah, let's make the decision at this intersection, and then we'll forget about it and go off to that intersection. We actually did an entire circulation plan for the township by every major intersection within this township. And this intersection analysis, quote unquote, New Jersey Route 10 and North-South Jefferson Road. The intersection of New Jersey Route 10 and Jefferson Road is in all probability the most congested intersection in the township. From a rating, a traffic rating, it's an F, meaning it's a failed intersection. I think anybody who tries to travel that thing in the morning between 7:30 and 8:30 and 4 o'clock and 5:45 at night will sit through 5 to 6 traffic lights. Okay, that's a problem. All right, what else is going on here? What else is going on here is that we've tried to stabilize the tax situation in Hanover Township. Hanover Township had some dark days. We laid off lots of people. We had our residents exposed to potentially massive tax increases. And as a result of it, we tried to dig ourselves out of the hole in which we're in. Well, the good news is you had a lot of volunteers in an economic development group who went out, who gave up their time every other Friday for about 3 years, and they attracted some very, very strong tenants and corporate entities. As a result of those corporate entities coming in, each proposal, everything that we do comes along with the traffic study. And we try to get and do an assessment, not just in isolation, but in aggregate, how this whole circulation within your town works. Now, if we really want to isolate what goes on Jefferson Road, we talked about the data center, but we also talked about there used to be a post office, the Central Post Office, the GPO. That GPO has flipped from public sector, meaning U.S. government, which contributed 0 to the taxpayers in Hanover Township, except for trucks on your road, to now something called UniFirst, which is a uniform cleaning complex. That uniform cleaning complex is going to be putting out additional traffic onto Jefferson Road. Things are bad on Jefferson Road today. If we fail to acknowledge and come up with a plan on how to address that intersection, if we fail to address how to look at Ridgedale Avenue and Hanover Avenue, what they're working with the county, and we approach these things in all isolation, we're going to create a major problem. However, I can tell you that there's tremendous interest in trying to address as best as we can to make improvements. So if I can get that F intersection that's out there today, which is a failure, a complete failure to operate and function closer to a C, that would be a significant improvement in the lives of the people who live here. I see some people here who travel this road during the times which I talked about. They can tell you how hard it is. It can take, literally, to go from the post office in Cedar Knolls to Blackbrook Park a half hour during the rush hour, simply because the road infrastructure needs to be improved. We're trying to do that. Any retailer who comes into that site, we're going to harness them with 2 issues. Number 1, pollution. We've got to get the pollution fixed up. We don't want to leave the pollution in the ground. nor do I think we want to turn it around to taxpayers and say, hey, you know what, it's $1 million, why don't you all deep down, pick up some more money, 5% increase in your taxes should cover it. And then you have an intersection, which I'm no road engineer, I can't tell you what the costs are going to be, but it's going to be a significant $1 million plus expense to fix that intersection. So I think the benefit,
Double it for us.
the benefit essentially is, number one, from an environmental standpoint, we owe it to the people who live here to preserve the quality of drinking water, potentially that could be negatively impacted, to clean it up. I can't chase people back to 1968 and make them do it. In terms of the failure of the intersections, we owe it to the people here to come up with plans, whatever it's going to be, if it is going to change to a retail zone, to fix it. We owe it to the people in this township to go back to what the planning board chair talked about. Route 10 needs a lot of help. It's been left in disarray for a long period of time. This is the tip of the iceberg of what needs to get done to begin the process. So I tried to serve it up in a way that, a manner that would demonstrate nothing is done in isolation.
I really appreciate that, quite honestly, and each time I come here, I learn a lot of good stuff from you guys. So 3 points I know you made. One you made about the water situation, something with environment there, for example, if you don't fix it, something bad is happening underground, correct? So we are saying that something bad is happening underground right now?
I don't know.
Okay,
The
so.
potential liability exists.
Okay, so it's probably a good thing to know about that sooner because we've got people living close by, correct? So regardless, because this thing been out there for 20, 30 years, what's going on, we should.
Don't know.
Correct. So if these guys had not come up with a new proposal, regardless, I'm saying that we may have to think about something there because people live just right close to that place. Number two, I know you guys said this intersection has got an F, maybe it's got an F for traffic. Another reason is that would be fair to say F for traffic reasons, F for ISO reason?
No, F for traffic function.
Okay.
Functionality.
This is a state rating, F.
So does with the new proposal, does it become a C, we think?
Well, I would hope this improvement at least presents a C rating.
C rating in terms, and what does it mean? Improve traffic? What does the rating F
It
mean?
improves the flow. It's flow. They're measuring flow.
Has
The
to
amount
do
of
with
lights.
the delay at the intersection to get through the intersection, has to do how long you have to wait to get through.
So with the quick check there, we believe it bumps up to C? Is that the intellectual assessment that we have? It seems to me, and I could be totally wrong, I'm not a, data person very much, but, intellectually or anecdotally, it looks like that it may get worse as opposed to getting better, correct? I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen the study, I'm just thinking out loud here.
We've had the benefit of evaluating the studies, and it will get better if we improve it. If we make the design changes, it will get better. Or, if it were not to get better, why bother?
Exactly,
Why
that's
make
what
the
I'm saying,
change?
absolutely, you're absolutely 100% right, and, and without the understanding the science behind it, which you guys have probably looked at the study, it feels like, things are going to get slowed down, things are going to get choked out more, and I'm not saying that I do want us to improve this thing, and a good, nice looking stuff would be a good thing. It's just, I keep on hearing the traffic problem, and as you recall, the Windermere traffic problem we talked about a few weeks ago as well. So it seems to me, I'm not even quarter mile away that I'm going to put 15 houses, which is going to choke more traffic on Jefferson. And then I'm going to put this, which at least intellectually sounds to me it's going to add more traffic to. I could be totally wrong.
This traffic, retail operations choose their sites with one primary, the amount of eyeballs that pass
Correct.
through. So that is going to be, people aren't going to come from Sparta to want to go visit the Quick Check in Whippany. If I'm driving to or from work, or I'm going to the doctor, or I'm taking my kid to Blackbrook Park, and my car needs gas, I'll probably go in there. But I'm not going to make a special destination trip.
Fully
to go
appreciate.
Visit Quick Check.
Yeah, but I would think that, however, not knowing the science behind it very well, it's going to slow things down as opposed to speed things up, correct? Because people are going to pause. People are going to stop and get something Quick Check and move on. If there wasn't something there, they will just keep on moving. So that's...
Arguably, north and south, if you're going northbound on that road,
Yeah.
it's an F. It doesn't work, and it's going to get a whole lot worse. Our failure would be to do nothing.
I fully agree, but I don't want us to make it worse, that's all,
The
correct?
the ways it'll be getting better
Yeah.
is, one, the timing of the signal will change to better time the traffic so it's more efficient. Secondly, with the addition of lanes and turning lanes, is that there will be more volume, more capacity for cars to get to the intersection instead of having to queue up in a big long line further back. So there will be more capacity and be able to get through the intersection more quickly in that way. It's not significantly adding traffic to the area because, like the committeeman said, the kind of people that go to these types of stores are already on the road. This is what's called pass-by traffic. It's people that are on their way someplace already, they see they need gas, or they want to get a cup of coffee. They go there, but they're not going to go there as a special trip all by itself.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to explain to you conceptually how we believe it's going to improve the flows of traffic at that intersection.
You may be fully right, but, and I'm sorry if I'm sounding stupid here, but, it sounds to me that if I'm going to stop to do something as opposed to pass through, I'm going to increase more traffic because I'm going to get out of the way, go to quick check, and do my stuff and go. So it intellectually at least sounds to me it's going to slow down stuff. Secondly, the timing of the signal, traffic lights, is that something that we can't do today? Just stupid question, dumb question. We can't do the timing adjustment now?
Of course it could be done today.
Sure. Sorry?
Yes, it could be done, but the whole signal needs to be upgraded. There's a cost factor involved in that. Yeah, I mean, the town could spring for $1 million and
That's
make
$1 million for the traffic lights adjustment? I don't know much about it, so I
I'm not
apologize.
saying just traffic light. There's a
Yeah.
whole bunch of things that need to be done. That's one of them, but a new traffic signal.
The whole signal system on that intersection has to be redone.
And if
It
you
has
go,
to be upgraded.
and if you go with this proposal, the quick check team is going to invest in the traffic light system. Is that what we're
Yes.
saying? Are they going to fix that?
The investment in the upgrade of the traffic lights
Yeah.
is the responsibility of the potential developer.
Okay, I think it's probably worth just checking out what our investment is going to be without this, i.e., the signal light adjustment, just for understanding. Because it sounds to me that we should be looking at more of the solution space, and at least intellectually, it sounds to me that this may cause more problems. You guys obviously know much smarter than me, know much better than me. I haven't seen the study, but intellectually, it sounds like that. So, and the other point, the study that you guys are talking about, is that available that we can review? Which says it's an F and these kind of proposals might make it better. Is there a black and white study that somebody could review?
I think you were given that answer, sir.
You can issue a request, an Oprah request to get a copy of it, I'm sure.
Sure,
I don't
appreciate
know.
that. I just want to get smarter at these things, that's all. I'm
Yeah,
not doubting what you guys are saying, by the way.
There's one other issue that you didn't bring up, but
Yes.
I think it's very important. We have a community, we have 30 residential homes who are trapped, that it's very difficult for them to get out of their community. If these improvements are made, part of the design of those improvements needs to be done in a thoughtful manner so that we can provide the individuals who live there, or wherever you live within this township, we take into consideration trying to improve safe passageway. Right now, they do not have a safe passageway. It's impossible for them to make a left turn during peak traffic because no one will let them come out through the
And
block.
I didn't appreciate that problem. I really appreciate that,
Could
bringing
you
that point
sum
up.
up, sir? You've had at least 15 minutes. I understand you're really pursuing this, and if you'd like to meet with our engineer and pursue your questions, I'm happy to arrange
No, you guys have been great. Thank you.
But otherwise, if you could come to a summation or a point, I'd appreciate it.
No, I actually got really educated with some of the questions, and the only comment last was that the communities you're talking about, I think is a great point, and we believe, I think the team here believes that this proposal will make it better. That's all I'm trying to understand, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Ann Kosinaki from 39 Malapartist. One question. If this one gas station is creating such a problem, then I think that one gas station probably pumped gasoline for two vehicles. Now, the proposal is for 8 pumps to come in. How big of an area is necessary to put in a tank in the ground to have sufficient gas to pump 8 to have 8 pumps going? That's question number 1. Number 2, having crossed where the church property is, there is a drain there for water. Now, it comes to mind that Ridgedale Avenue has a pumping station. How far away, I don't mean to be in anybody's engineering shoes.
You're right on target, the wind wells.
How far away
Yeah.
is it important to be from the quality of water to where you have a gasoline station that's going to fill a tank of gasoline for eight vehicles constantly being in use? I don't know if it's a valid question, but it's just, it just bothers me.
It's a valid question, and as a layperson, only exposed to some of this engineering as it comes past us, I can tell you that the tanks that are put in these days are double insulated or double wall tanks, and there are other types of safety measures that check the pressure of the tanks for leaks, et cetera, on an ongoing basis, on and on. They identify the fact that they've got a leak or they've got an issue here. The well that you're talking about is up off of Ridgedale Avenue by the Norman Gale Oldsmobile.
That's
in the, back
the
there.
pumping
The water company owns
station.
that.
But
And,
Mayor, I'm talking about
but the last time we looked at
canal
that-
that's right here on Jefferson Road.
The last time we looked at that, there are rings, that they go out. How can I explain this? There are rings around that particular well that are protected by the water company out to what they call a third partial or tertiary ring that goes all the way out. Can't develop on that, can't build on that, can't put anything on that. So the water company understands that, and anything that comes within the impact of that area, they're going to have a comment on. So, will they see this? If it's within their purview to take a look at it, they're going to take a look at it. Yeah, for sure.
But I'm just interested, if one gas station which pumped 2 vehicles created such a problem for 30 years, 40 years, and now it's probably disintegrated, and you're probably looking for scraps in the ground. So if one gas station created that, then a gas station that we are building for our future generation, should they have a problem with that tank, well, the whole neighborhood will have to get cleaned up. No?
I understand your question, and
It might not be valid, but just from a...
Tanks that were in that ground when that gas station was first built were probably steel tanks or metal tanks of some nature, and I'd be very safe in saying to you, I'm sure that most of it is been corroded, eroded, et cetera, and whatever content in there, to what extent has leaked out. And that's what our issue is. We had a similar gas station that has been abandoned for quite some time, just above there by the Marriott, what was that called, Petrochemical?
There was
and
something.
Petrochemical, about a couple of years ago, we detected a petroleum in the ponds over here on our recreation department, and traced it to the fact that they were leaking until the point that we had to bring in the DEP, and they had to do a full cleanup over there. These are older tanks, older technology, older methodology on this stuff. That's what causes a problem. Is there a potential of something like this happening today? I guess there is, but then we've got to say that about every gas station that's ever gets built,
Okay, but it would be just interesting to know from where this canal on Jefferson Road is to where that pump station is, how does the water get to there? So it would be interesting to see the route that it takes. Does it go towards Route 10 or does it go a little to the left? I don't know. But is that going to affect the gas station? I don't know.
I can tell you that well is pumping pretty deep. In other words, it's not pumping from what we call surface water, and it's not pumping from just water, primary water. It's pretty deep.
Okay.
And you're getting water from the Buried Valley Aquifer, which is pure water, beautiful water. So it's the size of a lake, which goes from here to the Oranges. Interesting little fact, but that's what you're drawing water from.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Anyone else like to be heard at this time? Hearing none? Seeing none? Motion for close?
So moved.
Second? 1 second.
Second.
Okay.
On roll call, Mr. Schleifer?
Are you calling the vote, or you want to
I'm calling vote to close.
Aye.
On the vote to close. On the vote to close.
Schleifer?
Aye.
Mr. Feldman?
Aye.
Mr. Bruno.
Aye.
Mr. Poe.
Aye.
And Mr. Fritz.
Aye.
Now,
All right, now I want to get comment, yeah, okay. All right, gentlemen, at this point, the public sector has been heard. I'll take any comment from the committee at this time.
Mayor, may I make a comment? Just, from a standpoint of land use law, I just like to just comment that this is in the municipal land use law, really known as redevelopment. It's a redevelopment type issue, and from everything that the planner has said tonight, the planning board has said in the planning process, this isn't something that just comes out of nowhere. It evolves, and there's really a stigma to this area of the township, and we've heard about it even tonight from some of the residents. It's traffic. There's property that doesn't have any utility because of the situation. There's environmental concerns. These are all concerns, and what the township's tried to do is take the planning tools that it has available and to try to address these concerns. And it takes in redevelopment a certain type of, what you might call just a planning process that would encourage the remediation of things like the environmental issues and the traffic issues. And, even with the standpoint, one resident mentioned about the value of properties in the vicinity, which is a concern. I can just tell you, I only really defended municipal tax appeals for 20 years. And you really don't hear about the type of establishment, for the most part, unless you have some real extreme establishments that are problems to value. What you hear about is when someone's not a good neighbor. If it's a resident, we hear about it in tax appeals. If it's a good neighbor, and if it's a neighbor who does what they're supposed to do, then it really shouldn't affect your property values. It should overall, if these overall objectives are achieved that have been pointed out by the planning board and the township committee and through your traffic studies and plans, if they're achieved, then it should have a positive outcome. No matter how hard it may be to see that, to vision that until it really occurs. But those issues are the very issues that this type of zoning seeks to address. And in this process, and I've mentioned this before, zoning is step one to address these overall objectives. But step two is when a site plan application comes forward, then it's a very critical opportunity for residents to come and express their concerns on the record as far as what they feel they need to help the overall character of their neighborhood. And it's, so tonight's not necessarily for that, but if this ordinance is adopted to achieve those goals, when you come back and you'll be noticed on a site plan application, that's the opportunity to come forward and say, aesthetically, we need certain buffers for our neighborhood. We want to understand more or express concerns about access for our neighborhood. We want certain type of landscaping to help preserve the value and overall character of our neighborhood. And if those type of concerns are addressed, which the township has a terrific track record that the planning board does try to address those type of development concerns, then it's incumbent upon whoever owns that property to adhere to those conditions. Because if they don't, they're in violations of the terms of their approvals. So I just want to point out that this is one step in the process, and albeit it's a critical one, but it's to help effectuate the overall policies, to address environmental, to address traffic, to address infrastructure that was never really designed for what the character of not only the community, but what the character of the region. And now you have an opportunity to address that infrastructure and plan accordingly, and hopefully to make a better quality of life, not just for all the residents, but for the residents in the vicinity of the property. So I just want to point out, it's a two-step process, but it's the municipal land use law has this opportunity for residents to be heard, not only tonight, but especially if this goes forward at the site plan process, because that's where the planning board can say, we're not going to do this until we hear how you are going to address some of the residents' immediate concerns that border the property and things of that nature. There'll be witnesses that'll testify. They're going to be under oath. You'll have the opportunity to cross-examine them, to express your concerns, and fight for the things that you think are really important. And you'll be heard. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, John. Fred, any comment from the Township Committee? at this time? John?
Comment, yeah. When you look at making a zone change, essentially what you need to do is you need to look at, on one hand, what's the upside? The other hand, what's the downside? And you need to do an analysis of that to see whether the good outweighs the negatives. Listening to the planning board's chair, this is part of an upgrade of overall Route 10. This is, as I said earlier, it's the tip of an iceberg. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on Route 10 to fix Route 10. There's a blighted condition that we have. Those of you who live near it know of it. We have a pollution problem. It needs to be fixed. We have a failed intersection. The intersection needs to be addressed. The intersection needs to allow for proper flow to improve it, because we're trying to use the learning from a circulation plan, which identified that this was the number one worst intersection in our town. In addition, we need to provide a means for the people. We need to be sensitive, we need to be understanding of, if we are to allow this zone to change, what happens to the residents of Malapartis? And can we design something that will allow them to more safely exit and enter their neighborhood? In addition to that, I listened to our residents about issues that they had, which had nothing really to do with the ordinance, but they had stuff to do with site plan, and they were important commentaries. And there's things that we can do, we can take advantage of that, we can listen, and we can capitalize on those points if this is to move forward. That could help improve safety, that could help improve buffering, that could include surveillance cameras on the exterior of this building, that would include the prohibition of outdoor dining, because that's not what we want to see at this location. That's all site plan issues. And I also heard ideas that would help immediately, and I would encourage this committee to look into what can we do in the short run to move towards implementation of potentially a stripe box. We put a stripe box on the corner here that facilitates movements of the police. Perhaps there could be a similar stripe box constructed on Jefferson Road in the short term.
No, John, I can't agree with you. On that note, just as, and I don't want to stop anyone else from commenting. Jerry, we control Jefferson Road.
There is an issue of jurisdiction. I think a portion of that might be still under DOT jurisdiction.
How far does the state come in?
They go right up to the corner there of Ukraine, so we'd still have to contact the DOT regarding striping that box.
Can you take a look at that?
Yes, sir.
And consistent with some of the comments that we've heard, if it's within our purview, even if it isn't, let's see where the DOT is. Get a public works crew, or we can contract out to see if we can get a strike box put in it. And if anything, and even prior to any site plan approval that goes forward, that'll give us a certain period of time to see the effectiveness of it, and before further improvement. So you
Yeah, that was the same process with striping of the box here. Yes, that was still under DOT
Let's do that. Would you look into that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, the floor is still yours.
Yeah, a few things. I'll make it brief. It's now getting late. I've listened intently to all the people that have spoken, and certainly many make very good points, the planning board, the opposition, and I've lived in town my whole life. I think, Route 10 has fallen into disrepair in many regards, in this intersection in particular, and I think it's incumbent upon us to try to improve it. It's going to get worse. It's gotten worse. Bayer, who we are happy to have in town, has added a lot of additional employees and certainly a lot of cars to the road. The crossings will be coming online. The intersection is just going to get worse. And to try to get through there, at rush hour, to get over to Veterans Field, I live up on Countrywood, which should be a 5-minute ride is now a 20-minute ride. And it's only going to get worse, and we don't really have another solution. The cost to the town is something that we're just not ready to shoulder. In terms of some of these other businesses that are coming in, we know that there's been approval for some food store or a food store. There's another food store. Something has to be done. it's going to get to the point where you can't go out at all. And I understand the concern, the people on Malapartis, but in response, I would offer that, we've got to look at improving this. And I think the planning board has done a lot of work to determine that, if we do change this zoning, that this company in particular has the resources to improve this intersection. I don't have a crystal ball. I mean, I can't sit here and say, the day they open their doors that the traffic is going to get better. But I know that if we don't do anything, the traffic is going to continue to get worse. And I will say, and once again, I don't own any stock in Quick Check. I don't even know if they're a public company, but they've been a good neighbor. We do have a little bit of a track record here whereby they've opened a new store. We've made some requests of them after the fact in terms of changing lanes and things like that, and they've been very agreeable. Maybe because they want to open another store in town. I get that. But having said that, they are a for-profit business. So, to do the right things with the first store would lead me to believe that they'll do the right things with the next store. So, my primary concern here is not that, they get to open a new store and make money, but this intersection gets improved and this traffic situation gets improved. And I think they've come with a plan and they have the resources to execute the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. George?
Well, I guess there's no denying how I feel about it. I think I've expressed my views to the committee many, many months ago. It's a shame that when it was zoned at BP, that the people didn't clean it up. Now we've got an excuse for someone to come in and say, well, we'll clean it up for you. I'm against convenience stores, period. I could say totally against it. We've got a 7-Eleven in Cedar Knolls. We've got a Quick Check in Whippany. That Quick Check services has 3 stations, 6 pumps, closes at midnight. This location is going to have 8 stations, and if I'm not mistaken, 20 pumps, because they're on both sides. All right, and this is going to be open 24 hours a day. Now, we had a 7-Eleven, Cedar Knolls. We got a Quick Check, Whippany. We proposed a Quick Check at the VFW site, and it got knocked down. Now we're going to have looking at one on Jefferson Road, and now we're going to look at one possibly on Ridgedale and Hanover Avenue. I just have a problem with the quality of the town that all of a sudden we're going to have Quick Checks all over the place. They definitely do bring an issue with me as far as safety is concerned, especially with this ball field close by. I have a concern for the noise factor. I have a concern that it becomes a hangout, and I'm concerned with late hour transits going in and out. I think we've got a Shell station that has closed up on Route 10 going east. We have a Sunoco station that's closed up going west. We also have a Shell station that's looking to try to rent its facility. And to me, I just don't know that, we need to go on and have some more convenience stores and gas stations. You put that on that corner, I don't care what anybody tries to tell me, that's going to be a traffic nightmare. I can see it, what happens on the Whippany Quick Check and the gas station, how busy it is, and that is not going to be quite even the size of what this one is here. I see it for a lot of traffic. I give the EDAC a lot of credit, believe me. These folks here who served on that committee in 2009 when I got on, things were very tough. I understand that, all right? But Hanover Township has always been, to me, just a beautiful place that it still is today. I just personally myself, and I respect my fellow committee people, how they feel and how they vote, but I just have a problem when we start looking at Quick Checks that are going to start popping up all over the place, that's going to develop a myriad of traffic. And it will. If you think it's not going to, not only for local residents, but transient residents going in and out. So I'm just my personal feeling. I don't care for them at all. At least with what we have.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, Mayor.
Ken, you have any comment? None?
No, I think enough's been said. I do agree that the pollution will be cleaned up, the traffic congestion will probably be better. It's in general improvement to the area, and that's always been my feeling on it. I don't have anything against convenience stores. In fact, I think they're very useful to have around. The one that opened up on Parsippany Road and Whippany Road is lot of positive comments from. They have issues and they work with us, and it's a good company that's there. There's not much more to say about it. There's a lot that's been said tonight. I guess the most important thing is that we found, just from suggestions from people here, that there's some things we may be able to do, like a box.
I think
and try
so.
those things. And that was really good input, so glad that happened. That's about it, Ron. Thanks.
Hey, thank you, Kenny. All right. Gentlemen, at this time, what is your pleasure? Call a vote?
Sure. I'll make a motion.
Second. Okay, we have a motion for adoption by Mr. Schleifer, seconded by Mr. Faramasco. On roll call for adoption on ordinance 18-13. Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Faramasco.
Aye.
Mr. Bruno.
Aye.
Mr. Capola.
No.
Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
4 ayes and 1 nay. Ordinance is approved.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. Any other business from the Township Committee at this time?
Mayor, I just want to alert everyone that on October 5th, we have a special event. It's called Community Shred Day. Our Hanover Township Green Team, in conjunction with Employment Horizons, will be providing a free shredding opportunity for individuals who live in town. It'll be at 10 Ridgedale Avenue in Cedar Knolls at the Employment Horizons site. It starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's through 11 o'clock in the morning, and their limit is 30 pounds, so please take advantage of it. It's the right thing to do. It also helps you clean out some of those old files that are probably sitting in drawers in your home.
I was waiting for one of those, John. I'm glad that happened again. I started cleaning out some papers.
All your old check stubs. Son of a gun. Okay, any other comment from the committee? All right, motion to open the floor once again.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, the floor is open, the podium is open. Anyone who would like to be heard at this time? Seeing none, hearing none, slow count. Motion to close?
So moved.
Second. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion for adjourn?
So moved.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good job, Mr. Mayor.
11:30. Oh, that's right, we have more business to go. Thanks.
It's
Yeah.